Okay. Good evening. The Charter Township of Plymouth Board of Trustees regular meeting for Tuesday, September 10th, 2024 will come to order. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Trustee Stewart.
Here.
Trustee Monahan.
Here.
Trustee Kermy.
Here.
Trustee Buckley.
Here.
Clerk Borba here. Treasurer Dorchevitz.
Here.
Supervisor Heisler.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, Pledge of Allegiance tonight. How about Trustee Jen Buckley?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, need a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Clerk.
I move for the approval of the agenda for Tuesday, September 10th, 2024.
Motion's made by Clerk Forva, seconded by Trustee Buckley. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Trustee Monahan. Go ahead.
Since we're not having comments in the beginning, I would like people to be able to speak on the agenda item if they have something to say about that item.
Let's make it relevant to that item, though?
Yes.
Yes.
Only
Okay.
that item.
Okay, we can do that. We've done that in the past, but we can certainly do that tonight. Okay, need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
We didn't have a vote on the,
Oh, I
on
thought
the,
I
on the
did
approval of the agenda.
I thought I did a voice vote.
All
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, consent agenda.
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Clerk.
I move for the approval of the consent agenda for Tuesday, September 10th, 2024.
Okay, motion's made by Clerk Vorba. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Buckley. Mr. Clerk, you're going to have to take a roll call on this
Okay.
one.
Supervisor Heisler.
Yes.
Treasurer Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Clerk Borba, yes. Trustee Buckley.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Monahan.
Here.
Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay.
Is Anthony Mano here?
No, I think he's still working. I think they're open until 7:30 or 8, so if not, he's got to put his business to bed. All right, moving on, we have, our next item is approval of the amended and restated declaration of restrictions for Ridgewood Hills Subdivision Homeowners Association. With us tonight, we have both our township attorney, Jeremy Schroet, and also we have an attorney representing Ridgewood Hills. I'd like that gentleman to come forward, come up to the podium here, make sure the mic is on, speak clearly and loudly, because we don't always have great coverage. And just tell us who you are, and then just give us a really brief synopsis on what this is all about, both item 1 and 2.
Yes, of course. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Michael Pereira. I'm an attorney with Persil Law, and our office has been working with the association over the past 3 years to draft the amendment that is now before you. So the amendment for the amended and restated declaration is to do exactly what the title suggests. Amend and restate the use restrictions that are applicable to the owners who live within the 4 different subdivisions. When the developer first created the subdivisions in 1978, it subjected all owners within those subdivisions to a uniform set of restrictions. These restrictions included use restrictions as to how they could use their property, building restrictions, including payment of assessments, those sorts of things that affect owners' everyday lives. Those declarations have not been amended since 1978, with one exception in 2014 that I believe prohibits above ground pools. But by and large, these use restrictions are from 1978. And so what this amended and restated declaration does is it improves the restrictions that are applicable to these owners. Not only does it reflect these use restrictions to bring them up to what the owners expect to have in their subdivisions with respect to the use of their property, but it also reflects changes in Michigan law, primarily the Nonprofit Corporation Act. And so there is a large portion of this amendment that is corporate governance related. So how meetings are held, we're in the 21st century, associations conduct business by Zoom, electronic voting, things along those lines. And so by approving these amendments, and it was no easy feat to have the owners approve these amendments. Like I said, there's 4 subdivisions. There are 385 total owners, and we needed to get a written consent, so we needed each owner to say, yes, I approve we needed 75% of those lot owners. So we needed 289. We got 292. And so there's over 75% of owners within the subdivision who approved and agreed to be bound by these sets of restrictions. And so we would ask that the township also approve the restrictions as well. So that's the amended and restated declaration. And then there is also the storm drain agreement. And in a nutshell, what the storm drain agreement says is that the association will be responsible for the various aspects of storm water drainage. There are, I believe, 3 retention basins within the subdivision, so the association maintains those. The owners also have an obligation to maintain certain aspects of the storm drainage system that affect their lots, like the drainage rate of their lots can't be changed. And what the agreement also says is that the township has the ability to come in and say, hey, X, whatever X is, needs work. It needs maintenance, it needs repairs. And so the association, you are responsible for this. Either you need to make the change or you need to make an owner make the change. And if the association or the owner, as the case may be, fails to do so, what the agreement says is the township has enforcement rights to either require the association to do it, or the township can just come on the property, make the change, charge the cost back to the association, and the association has to. Both documents at a high level, and if there's any questions, I will do my best.
So a couple of things I'll just mention. The signatures from the residents are on file in the clerk's office for review. I believe each signature was a separate page, and we didn't want to have a 1,000-page agenda here tonight. So all of those signatures are on file. I think our township engineer and attorney have thoroughly reviewed everything as well, and I think as far as Attorney Kevin Bennett is concerned, we're protected from a indemnification and liability standpoint. Is that fair enough?
That's correct. The township's portion of the restated restrictions was relatively minor, but we did insist on some changes which the homeowners association agreed to, particularly bringing the storm drain agreement up to the most current version.
And the storm drain agreement was done in part with the township engineer as well. Okay. All right, any questions from the board on this?
Yes, I have a couple. The agreement we have here, was that what was signed off by the 292 people or a prior version?
The storm drain agreement?
Either one of these agreements.
So the storm drain agreement is an agreement that is within the board's discretion to sign. And so the board president would be able to sign that on behalf of the entire association. The amended and restated declaration, that is the document that 292 owners agreed and provided their signature pages for.
Okay, so the final document was what was signed off on, not a previous draft.
Correct. There have been previous drafts, but what was submitted to the township is the final draft that was approved by the owner.
All right, Jeremy, this is you said that you could ask, but the township could ask for a change in something. There's got to be a limit to what the township can ask a private property owner to change. So let's talk a little bit about sump pump drains out the backyard. What do they have now? What type of system? Is it actually hard piped to storm drains, or are some people putting it out on the grass or in the yard, above ground?
In general, the storm drain agreement covers the stormwater conveyance of the pipe, the hard pipe itself, and the stormwater detention pond. It doesn't necessarily map out who's draining their sump pumps into the storm sewer or not. I would suspect there's a combination of both based on the age of the sub. But this agreement is just the stormwater conveyance between properties, not from a property to a storm drain.
So I'm a little concerned. I want to make sure that the township isn't going to be asking people to do something that is beyond the scope. So give me an example of what Plymouth Township would be asking other than the detention ponds and the conveyance off the property to creeks and drains. What else would we be asking changes for?
So that's a good question, and Mr. Bennett, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the scope of the township's authority under this agreement is purely maintenance, repair, or replacement. It is not an authority to require an individual owner to undertake additional work or create something new that does not already exist. So it's more an instance of something is wrong and something is broken and it needs to be fixed, as opposed to you need to do something new to your property.
So do we expect this to be a trend, that people would be spending a lot of money on attorneys and time to be rewriting agreements from the past?
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously our firm has an interest in this type of work, but we represent thousands of associations. I myself work in primarily document amendments. These documents are old. They need to be updated. Like I said, there have been changes in the law that allow for corporate governance to operate more smoothly. In addition to these use restrictions applied to individual owners were thought up and written down by the developer in the late 70s. And so things have changed in those years since then. And so the developer is no longer involved. The association is now run by the owners. And so in my view, and I believe in the association's view as well, the owners are now in the best position to decide what they should be bound by. If the developer originally said you can install a fence, and 75% of the owners say we don't like fences, we would like to prohibit fences, in my view, that is something that should be changed.
So to be generated by the owners.
Correct. Okay. Yeah, it reflects the sensibilities of
Right.
the current owners.
So these changes are, the existing property status is grandfathered in versus changes, I'm talking about individual plats or whatever, if it's a condo association. Are they grandfathered in, or is this document going to give teeth that somebody, the next time they have to fix a fence or whatever, has to bring it up to this HOA standard?
That's a good question, and I would say it would depend on a case-by-case basis as to what the restriction is. If there is being a large change, for an example, fences were allowed and now they're prohibited. When you buy a property in a homeowners association or a condominium, it is always a risk that the documents and the restrictions can be changed. And so, you know, from my point of view, if the association were to ask me what my require an owner to remove their fence that was allowed and no longer is, I would say let's grandfather them in. But ultimately, that is going to be a decision for the board to.
But basically, these rules run with the land.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. They run with the land. They will be recorded with the Wayne County Register of Deeds. And so when property is being purchased, there should be a title search. These restrictions should pop up, and so new owners would be on notice of these restrictions that would affect their use of the property.
Can I ask you, why is it that the township has to be involved with your wanting to change HOA language?
The short answer is because that's what the document says.
But how does the document hold the township liable, or, I mean, I'm not liable in the sense of negligence, but liable for us to have to make a decision on basically what it is? It's your own business. It's a contract between you and the property owners.
Right. So, you know, again, the short answer is that's what the original declaration says. We need 75% of owners and township approval. It doesn't explain why we need township approval, other than we just do.
Well, a lot of times, if I may interrupt, people will come to the township asking for a permit, and we'll say, well, wait a minute, what does your association rules say? So it's good that the township understands what the rules are, so it's to better serve the public.
Yeah, except that we now stand in between the HOA and the property owner, and we could be on the hook doing that for countless of other HOAs.
Yeah, that is
Possible.
It's a possibility. It's going to depend on what's in the individual documents. If I were to venture a guess why the association is looking for township approval in this instance, it's because of the storm drainage restrictions that are in the current documents. Because the township does have an interest in that. There is the oversight responsibilities that we talked about. And so conceivably, the association could go off the rails and remove all those restrictions, remove township oversight for the storm drainage system within the declaration, get 75% of owners to approve it, and then they would just have full control. And so,
Doesn't DEQ get involved with the owner, I mean, the storage, I don't know, maybe I've got the wrong agency, but there's an agency that's over drainage,
Eagle.
Eagle,
Wayne,
okay.
Wayne
Eagle.
County is technically in charge of storm drains, but Wayne County, when we go through a site plan or engineering approval process, they push down the responsibility to the township, and then the township then pushes the responsibility down to the HOA through the storm drain agreement. That's why we're a party to it, because the county makes us a party to
But
it.
we don't have authority to make the homeowner make that change in the storm drain, do we?
depending on what the change would be.
What the change is.
We,
yeah.
we do. Technically, the township has the ability, but not the obligation, to require changes to anything that we see as deficient. Like, let's say we have a flood and you're flooding out a neighbor downstream, we can go in and force that HOA to improve that storm drain.
Is this a platted subdivision or a site condo?
Thank you, Jeremy.
It's a platted subdivision.
But it's,
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions from board members? Anybody in the public on this? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Clerk.
I move for the approval of Resolution 2024-09-10-52, approving the amended and restated declaration of restrictions for the Ridgewood Hills subdivisions numbers 1 through 4, including the exhibits A through C attached thereto, the stormwater drainage system agreement, Exhibit C, and the attached exhibits A and B to said agreement, subject to final approval of the township attorney.
All righty, motion's been made by Clerk Vorba. Is there a second? Second by Treasurer Dorchevitz. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Clerk Vorba, yes. Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Buckley.
Yes.
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Treasurer Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart. Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, we're going to move on to item F2. We've had a pretty thorough discussion on this. Hearing no other questions, I'd entertain a motion as well.
Mr. Supervisor.
Clerk.
I move to adopt Resolution 2024-09-10-53, authorizing the Township Supervisor to approve the storm drain agreement with Ridgewood Hills Subdivision Homeowners Association and authorize the Township Supervisor and Clerk to execute the same.
Motion's made by Clerk Vorba. Is there a second? Second. Second by Treasurer Dorchevitz. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Absolutely. Page here. Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Trustee Dorchevitz.
Yeah.
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Treasurer Dorchevitz, I apologize. Trustee
Did I get-
Buckley.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Clerk Vorba. Yes, motion carries.
Okay, good. Item F3 is an intergovernmental agreement with Northville Township for contingent commitment to pay remaining Fonson project costs. Thank you, Mr. Attorney, and you can go home now, so.
Thank you very much.
So the situation here is that, you may recall, we received a $10 million grant from the state of Michigan for the widening and rehabilitation of 5 Mile Road between Ridge and Beck. That project is almost complete at this time. That's the good news. The bad news is that the rules of the grant were not fully shared with the communities when we received the grant. So the first half, the first $5 million has already been given to the MITC and has been spent. The second batch of $5 million is a reimbursement grant. And so as a result, we cannot get that $5 million until the project is substantially complete. And we are expecting the substantial completion to arrive certainly, I would think, no later than the end of the first quarter of next year, because the project's been moving along very well. So because of this, the state, the vendor needs to be paid. And as a result, the Northville Township folks have volunteered to cover that amount. So they are advancing the $5 million to pay the pay the vendor, which is called FONSEN. That's where the word FONSEN shows up there. And then the intergovernmental agreement is just that in the highly, highly unlikely event that the state of Michigan does not provide us the second disbursement, that this agreement would allow us to reimburse Northville Township for 50% of the funds expended within 30 days of invoicing. We don't anticipate this is going to happen, but and Northville, and in fact, Northville Township, I don't believe has advanced the money yet because we're still trying to work with the state on overcoming this current restriction. But we're expecting that we will receive the money upon substantial completion, and again, substantial completion is right around the corner. So I don't anticipate any exposure to the township, to either township at this point. This is more of a belt and suspenders agreement just to cover ourselves and make sure that the vendor gets paid. Because if the vendor doesn't get paid, then we're not going to achieve substantial completion because they're going to want to, they won't finish the work. So that's the bottom line of this particular agreement.
What does FONSEN mean again?
FONSEN is the company.
Construction company, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
they're
the
the
R.
construction.
What does substantial completion mean?
Whatever the engineers say it is.
Yes.
So, I mean, you want to give us a nutshell definition of substantial completion, Mr. Engineer? So,
Sure. Substantial completion generally just means open to traffic. You've completed the majority of the items, including the roadway, the storm sewer, the shoulders, et cetera. Final completion is generally all the punch list items are complete, restoration is complete, so the minor items after the road's open.
Thank you.
It may even occur before the end of the year. I mean, weather's been pretty cooperative and the project's been moving along really well.
So we are signing up to a risk of $2.5 million if somebody pulled the rug out at the state or there
If
was some.
if the state of Michigan were to back out of their deal, but that would be
Yeah, if they did that, we'd have to
serious
do a
problem.
special tax assessment to pay $2.5 million.
I don't know where you would get the money, but you know, we have the money in case we need it, so.
My question is this, is what happened, who's the project manager on this?
That would be Orchard Hills and McClimate, OHM engineers were hired by the MITC.
But Northville Township was managing them?
Northville Township is overseeing OHM for the most part, yeah.
Okay. And this seems like, to me, is a project management blunder. It's huge.
It's a grant blunder by the state of Michigan because they didn't disclose their rules and procedures to us at the time of the grant award. So the issue is with the state of
this?
the issue is with the state of Michigan.
What
Well,
if
the
we
vendors
wait-
will, the
what if we
vendors
wait
will,
to put more leverage on the state?
we are
Because
actually.
right now, it takes the pressure off of them. Hey,
No, we're
we're
actually.
signing up to $2.5 million.
We're actually doing that. We've been talking with the state continuously, and again, this is a belt and suspenders situation in case the state adheres to this agreement, the rules that they've set forth. But we are very much working with the MEDC and our legislative delegation to get that condition overridden and removed.
What do they say the progress is, or what are they going to do? They have to change, they have to put legislation forward to do it?
It may require a special act of the MEDC. I don't think.
More administrative.
It's more bureaucratic stuff rather than legislation.
I recommend we table this.
I
Not
would-
table it, postpone it.
I would urge you not to
keep
do
the
that.
pressure on.
I would urge you absolutely not to do that because
Slow down the work.
the vendor has to get paid, and if he doesn't get paid, then we are truly putting the project into jeopardy.
Right,
So-
I know.
Okay.
People with the money need to come up with it quickly, and we don't have the money.
Then you could, you can certainly email your legislative delegation, as we have done several times. So, okay, any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Supervisor,
Clerk.
I move to approve Resolution 2024-09-10-54, approving the intergovernmental agreement with Northville Township for contingent commitment to pay remaining FOSUN project costs MEDC grant for 5-mile road rehabilitation.
Motion made by Clerk Vorba. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Buckley. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Clerk Vorba, yes. Trustee Kermy.
No,
Trustee Buckley.
Yes.
Trustee Monahan.
No.
Treasurer Dorchevitz,
Yes.
Trustee Stewart,
Yes.
Supervisor Heisel.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Number 4 is award contract for the East Lawn Road and Water Main Project. Jeremy Schroet, again.
All right, this is the extension of the, as a part of the Plymouth Walks project, the PUD allowed the township to receive somewhere in the order of 1,848,276 for the reconstruction of East Lawn Road. That is Furwood Drive, General Drive, Michael Drive, and East Side Drive. That agreement was executed by the Board of Trustees in September 13th, 2022, and was subsequently recorded shortly thereafter. This project was kicked into motion, so we ran through the design documents, created a contract manual, sent that out for bids. We received 11 bids, which was great. 9 of those were within $500,000 of each other, so extremely tight bids. What's in front of you now is to look at approving the lowest qualified bidder, which was Main Street Contracting. We ran through their references, and they had a number of great references with similar type of work. What's also included in this project is the replacement of the General Drive water main. That water main right now is undersized at a 6-inch, but it also has a history of water main breaks. So as a part of this project, we're asking to replace that water main before the new road goes in, because it's going to be a lot cheaper to do it in a gravel road as a part of a road project than it would be to do it down in the future after we've already repaved the road.
Jeremy, any idea when that water main was first installed? How old is that?
I think it's 1976, I think.
That's not very old for a water main.
No, it's not terribly old, but again, you're kind of sitting next to.
Undersized.
That's.
It's undersized, though.
Yeah. Sorry, it's not 1961. 1961, and again, it's sitting right next to a site that was previously contaminated. So we see this often where water mains next to contaminated sites can deteriorate over time and cause more breaks, generally along the joints. That's what we were seeing here. But the new size of main that's generally required is an 8-inch, and that's mainly for fire suppression. So that's what we're doing here, is upsizing that 6-inch main to an 8-inch main.
Is this looped with the Plymouth Walk?
What was that?
Is it looped with the Plymouth Walk?
Yes, the water main is going to be looped with Plymouth Walk, consistent with every other main that we have in the township. As often as we can loop them, we do, because the longer the dead end main, the more stagnant the water becomes, and the more often we get eagle violations from stagnant water.
So currently, it's not really dead end, but sort of.
No, it's looped right now. Right now, General Drive loops all the way down to Furwood and comes back up East Lawn. And then Michael Drive is tied in the middle, and those both go out to Ann Arbor Trail. So the Plymouth Walks ties into that loop. So now it's looped from the north and the south.
Okay, any other questions from board members?
Yeah.
Okay.
This through road is going to change the character of the area along East Ann Arbor Trail. I don't want a through road, and I don't think the neighbors do. Toll Brothers didn't want it. You didn't want it, Spalding to Decker, and neither did Wayne County. So let's not do it. So let's rewrite the PUD. Let's do the water main if that's really necessary, but let's stop the through road.
So the residents on East Lawn and Furwood and Michael, they're just gonna still have dirt, muddy roads and potholes and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, roads, they like them.
Oh, they do, okay.
I grew up on a gravel road. We liked it.
Arrow, you do.
It reduced
What
it.
you did.
It reduces traffic.
Okay.
This will be a racetrack.
Perhaps Wayne County ought to have been pressured to maintain those roads. And there was a failure. There was a failure on the part of the township to insist that Wayne County, yes, no, I've been successful with Wayne County.
You're talking about grading and,
And this is a spine road. This is the
Not the
spine
spine,
road,
this
the
is
north-south.
not, this is not the spine.
no,
road.
it's not the spine road, but it connects to the spine road, which is a
Connects to
private
the
road.
Spine
yeah.
road, so.
Well, I voted no on the original PUD.
We know.
Because we put $8 million in the brownfield money. And I see you have me listed first, Mr. Borba, to vote on this.
So
That's
we're gonna,
It's not how.
Well,
That's not how it
that's
works.
not the issue. We want to do the right thing because this is
That's not how it works.
a 100-year decision.
Okay, anybody in the audience, we will open it up to comments. Just keep it to 3 minutes and keep it relevant to this agenda item. Yeah, Mr. Miller?
For those who don't know who I am, I'm Bob Miller. I have this whole thing with the East Side Lane and the type of road it is. What nobody's saying is that if that's going to be the north exit for the Plymouth Walk luxury development, which now is basically a drag strip, by the way. If that's going to be an exit on the north end of the street, that takes you up to Ann Arbor Trail, and then you're going to have to start thinking about a traffic light. And then you've got the trains that seem to stop every day on that railroad track, which we've talked about before. And I know on the September 13th agenda, as I understood it, the developers are going to pave that road, but we have to put in another bigger water main. Is that correct?
That's what we've been talking about, yes, sir.
And who's paying for that?
The water main?
The township?
Yeah,
How much money does that cost?
$600,000.
Wow. Has anybody asked the people on that road whether?
Yeah, I've talked with them been talking with them for years, and this, as the engineer has pointed out, this is also a safety item for those residents.
Well, I know it's going to permanently change
But you're talking about the water main.
the layout, yeah.
No, he's talking about the overall project, and that's been extensively debated by this board, and we have a PUD contract with the developers on this.
But they'd love to save the money and not have to contribute. Plus the Downtown Development Authority, which is this complex, I don't completely understand it, I got to read it, financing plan that we have.
Okay.
I think this is a chance to stop it. I urge you to do it.
Okay.
well, I'm amazed that the Toll Brothers have marketed these luxury townhouses, and they put a picture juxtaposed next to the fountain in downtown Kellogg Park. It just is totally incongruous.
That's the
So
whole.
you can walk from the luxury townhouses
Yeah.
on Ann Arbor Road to the fountain. My wife pointed this out to me in the marketing of the Toll Brothers for the Ann Arbor Road 1,000 residents.
It's not 1,000 residents, but again, that's part of their marketing plan, is to connect that
Walk to the
project
railroad, walk to the fountain in
with downtown
I mean, look
Plymouth,
at the
and
pictures.
because we're complementary to each other. So,
Sure.
one Plymouth,
And
you
the
know.
public has.
The public wants to go
overtly
to downtown Plymouth, you know.
Requested walkability.
Yeah.
Right, it will be
It's a
perfectly.
high priority.
I'm not talking about walkability, I'm talking about driving vehicles. You can walk, I think walking is fabulous there,
I'm sure a lot of people will.
That's part of their marketing
and
plan.
biking.
Ms. Grove?
Sandy Growth. I live on Butternut Avenue in Plymouth Township. I don't understand why the board is looking at funding the paving and the structure of the roadway for that particular subdivision, when every other subdivision in the township who wants their gravel roads converted have had to pay for them themselves with special assessment districts. And I don't think the residents in that subdivision are going to be real happy when they see what they're going to get for our investment in their road.
Well, first of all, the developers are paying for it. $1.85 million is what they've committed to the repaving and, well, not paving, to the paving and curb and gutter. If you've driven through there during a rain event or in the winter, it's a sloppy, muddy mess. And, you know, over the years that we were working on this project, I've been working along with the developers and the engineer with residents from the neighborhood impacted. This was really one of their demands.
I'm certain that it was their demand, but the point is the demand is being made to accommodate another development that a lot of people in this community are very unhappy with. And I'm concerned about the construction. I'm concerned about the level of traffic on Ann Arbor Trail. Plymouth Walk is a is causing a tremendous traffic problem in this area of the township. I happen to live here, so it matters to my neighbors. And all I'm saying is I don't understand why we need to incur the cost to assist someone with a development of a program that they're going to make money on. They can pay for the water line.
They are.
Well, they didn't actually want it. They preferred to have just a fire access.
They wanted access to Ann Arbor Trail for their customers to venture into downtown Plymouth and enjoy the amenities that our region provides, quality of life. Any other questions from board members? All right, then I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Clerk?
I move to approve Resolution 2024-09-10-55, authorizing the Board of Trustees to approve the award of the East Line Road Water Main Project to Main Street Contracting in the amount of $2,119,800.
Motion's made by Clerk Vorva. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Buckley. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Clerk Vorva, yes. Treasurer Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Trustee Buckley.
Yes.
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart.
No.
Trustee Kermy.
No,
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on, we have item 5 is the establishment of the annual tax rate for submission to Wayne County. Treasurer Dorchevitz.
Yeah, this is the annual submission of the tax rate to Wayne County.
Why do we do this, Bob?
Why do we do this every year? Because we have to approve the tax rate. This is for the winter taxes for Plymouth Township. The township taxes, there's a calculation that you do every year. And there's a equalization factor set by the county, which would then determines whether there's a Headley reduction. There's not this year because our millage reduction fraction is 1.0. Some other communities are different, but that's calculated at the county level. And we have to approve this in order to levy these taxes and the winter taxes that come out December 1st.
Okay. Any questions from board members? Anybody in the public, any questions? Okay.
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Clerk?
I move for the approval of Resolution 2024-9-10-56, hereby approving the attached 2024 tax request Form L-4029 as completed by Treasurer Dorchevitz with a millage request of 5.1276 to be levied on December 1, 2024, and to authorize the township clerk and supervisor to sign the form and submit it to Wayne County Equalization Division prior to September 30th, 2024 deadline.
Motion's made by Clerk Vorba. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Treasurer Dorchevitz. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Trustee Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Trustee, Treasurer Dorchevitz. Trustee Stewart. Trustee Buckley.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Clerk Vorba, yes. Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you very much. We're now going to move on to budget presentations. We've got fire coming up first, so we have Chief Conley will be doing his budget presentation. There was a minor change, so the board members did receive that in hard copy format, and I believe Treasurer Dorchevitz also has it now on his machine. Also with us here tonight is our Finance Director, Elizabeth Cutie. At the table with her is our Deputy Finance Director, Carol Roshan. They're just available for any detailed questions that may exist. But we really expect the chiefs and the assistant chief to handle the bulk of the questions here tonight. It's your baby, it's your show, and you can take it away.
Good evening, Board. This is my presentation with the 2025 Fire Department and Emergency Management budgets. Bobby, you can go to the next slide, please. Fire Department budget for 2025, the proposed budget is $6,307,800. The emergency management budget is $55,200. Fire department's roughly $365,000 increase from 24, and EM's about 24,000, but I'll get to that in further slides. Next slide, Bob. Here's our pie graph of everything. Obviously, our wages is the biggest chunk of what we do, and then retirement benefits, insurance, and then finally, the the fourth largest chunk is our operations. Our operations cost is down about 2% from 2024. That was in $704,300 for 25, and we were at $717,900 for 24. Capital outlay, that's significantly reduced from last year as well. That was we had 275,000 last year. This year it's slated to be 177,500, roughly a 3% decrease. Next slide, Bob.
Questions we're going to hold till you're all done? We're going to do slide by slide.
You can do them slide by slide.
Yeah, just slide by slide.
So
That's easier
let's
for me.
back up to wages and salaries. What is the head count that you're assuming 2024, and what is the head count 2025 and the difference?
Nothing. It's the same count. I'm assuming this is assumed on, what I currently have is 24 firefighters, a fire chief, and a fire inspector, and then our office manager.
So a risk to this budget is the labor agreement, which is asking for 3 more headcount?
I believe so, yes.
No?
They've withdrawn that request. A new counter proposal has been prepared by the union, and we're meeting with them on Monday to go over that with them, with their bargaining team.
So you anticipate
No change in headcount.
carryover headcount?
That's what I'm anticipating in this. The negotiations between the township and firefighters.
No change in headcount.
No change in headcount. So you don't see any risk to that salary number or any opportunities? Another, a risk is that you would go over it, and an opportunity is that you would go under it.
I don't see any opportunities.
We don't know at this point. Again, if negotiations break down with the union, then they will more than likely request to go to arbitration.
That's Act 312.
Yes, sir. Okay.
All right. Next slide, please. The capital improvements for fire stations, Station 3 is going to require the most for next year. It's the only station we have any cited for any improvements. The biggest thing is $135,000 to replace the fire suppression system. Currently, we do not have an operating fire suppression system in the building, and that's not good. So it needs to be replaced. It's past the point of being band-aided every year, as it's been for several years. And it needs to be replaced at this time. The system's roughly 35 years old, and it needs, it's a dry system as opposed to a wet system that kind of requires a little more maintenance that wasn't done before.
So dry means it's not pressurized all the time?
It is pressurized, but it's pressurized with air to hold the water back. And then the head pops, and then the air goes out and the water comes behind it. So the air is always holding the water back until a fire happens.
Versus
A wet system where
wet
it's
system
just
is
wet all the time.
always under pressure by water.
Yes,
Has hydraulic pressure. the whole
hydraulic
ti-
pressure versus.
The whole
air pressure.
time versus
Correct.
pneumatic pressure.
Correct.
All right.
And then the other item is $20,000 to replace the original wood windows that are on the south side of the building. There's 24 windows on the south side of the apparatus bay that need to be replaced. They're original to the building.
Some of the other windows were replaced previously?
Yes, they were. Before my tenure as chief, I'm not sure how long ago that was, quite frankly. It's been a number of years since it was done.
What's your assumption? Vinyl?
Yeah, I would assume vinyl.
So somebody like Wallside or Weather Guard or something like that?
Yep. I mean, we could do wood again, but I think the price would be much more significant. And maintenance, you have to paint it and everything.
Okay, I have one risk to that is the clock doesn't work.
The clock doesn't work.
I want to work on either figuring out how to fix it or replace it. A clock is a nice thing. I know that about
always
10 years
been kind
ago,
of a-
somebody said put a window in there because it wasn't worth it, but
Well, actually, if I could make a suggestion, put like a nice township logo in there. Our logo's round, we could put it backlit in there and it would look very nice.
Okay, well, you and I can work on that, or,
Is there a clock on this fire station?
Yeah, but
Hasn't
unfortunately
worked for
too,
years.
is if you look at that picture, see that
Driven
giant
by
tree
it
on the right?
5,000 times.
You can't even see the clock.
You can't see it.
you've never noticed the clock?
No.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can
the-
see it from North Territorial.
No, like the tree's covering it pretty
From the
much.
intersection, I drive by it a lot. You can see it from the intersection.
We've
So
talked
it's-
about this before, it was like $5,000.
Yeah.
It was
That's
a lot. I
years
know
ago.
Chief
Right.
Phillips handled
More
it
than
before
5 years
me,
ago.
and
Yeah. it was-
Like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't
it's been
think
a
the
while.
company that originally built it still exists,
Yeah.
so we'd have to,
clocks
and
are-
there's probably better technology,
Yeah,
so maybe.
clocks
they
are
could do
put
it.
in buildings all the time.
Yeah.
So,
There
all
was
right.
there was a lightning storm many years ago, and rumor about a
Yeah.
DeLorean and a
That time travel
high-speed- yeah, it
episode.
was
Save the
very
clock.
strange, very strange. All right, can we move on?
Okay.
All right.
So, we probably need to put some money in there for figuring out what to do with that hole, which is the clock.
Oh.
Either put a new
Well,
clock
I
in.
mean, we could do nothing and the clock's gonna be right twice a day.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, I like to say, I'm not opposed to putting a clock in there, just,
Well, we'll look into it.
yeah. So 2025 capital purchases, includes an additional bricks station learning box. This was the system we put in the station last year. What this box will let us do is, so the way the system works is each station has its own box. If station 2 gets a call, that box gets activated, says, hey, station 2, you have a call. What this additional box would let us do is it would broadcast it over the radios as well. What that does is if the firefighters are out of the stations on another call or returning from a call, they'll actually hear the tone for their station. Right now, what happens is a call comes in, the dispatchers activate the brick system, and then they go back to the old radio system, and then they broadcast a quick tone, just saying, you, station 2, medical, and the address, for instance. This would just be seamless. All they'd have to do is do the first tone, streamlines it. We tried it this way. This is the way Livonia does it. Canton, the way I just described, where they broadcast 2 tones. Canton, Northville Township, they have it as the way I'm proposing here with the additional box. And it seems to be much more efficient. We tried the Livonia way for our operation. I just don't think it works quite as well. Additionally, we have 4 rescue saws to the tune of $6,400. I think they're $1,600 a piece.
Is that an add or a replacement?
That's a replacement. The current saws we have are, I looked today to see if I could find the paperwork on how old they are, and I know they came in like in my first year here, and I've been here for 23 years. So
Well, they're probably on the, Elizabeth, they're probably on the asset list.
I don't think so at that.
yeah, it's,
Our capitalization policy is 5,000.
$5,000.
Okay.
and they were 23 years ago. I don't know what I think I won't even take a chance of guessing what they cost back then.
Is there something new that make them safer or not?
I just think they're a better saw than what we have currently, and they're just newer and they're in better shape. They're not 23 years old. Or they're just a new saw.
Is that the brand you're going to get, or are you going
Yeah,
to look at?
that's actually the saw we're gonna get right there. That guard there is designed for setting depths when we have to cut roofs, so you don't cut through the structure of the roof, you just cut the decking. And it's more of a robust saw than what is built for, say, a homeowner or even a professional like lumberjack or something. This is designed for us. It's got bigger air intakes because if we were working in a smoky environment, it's custom designed for rescue. And the final item is 2 SCBA's for $26,000. The reason we need these is when we got our SCBA's in 2017, we were down 1 fire apparatus. It gets a little complicated, but we had 4 ambulances and 3 fire apparatus. When we got the new apparatus from the city, we went down 1 ambulance, so we were just even, so we had enough to staff or to stock the units, all the units on the road. When we bought the new ambulance last year, that gave us a reserve EMS unit, so these would fill that void we have. And then Often also, if we have a pack go down for whatever reason, I have 2 firefighters that are trained as maintenance techs. If they have to take it down out of service to get parts repaired or whatever, it gives us a reserve. We pull them off the reserve units. Right now, we don't have a good amount of reserves out there.
And what
So
does that stand for, Chief? The
sorry?
SCBA? What
Oh,
does
I'm
it
sorry,
stand for?
self-contained breathing apparatus?
Put a U in it and it's.
Yeah, take a U in it and you go underwater. Don't take these underwater, it won't work.
Okay.
Next slide, Bob. Final capital purchase is a new Ford Explorer for the fire chief. My current Explorer has 120,000 miles on it. We will keep that vehicle and just roll it back into the fleet. It's good, you know, if we have a lot of guys who are doing different trainings, doing different meetings, all sorts of different stuff. And quite frankly, it could be another vehicle in the fleet for the township at some time, maybe.
Is this the vehicle you drive home every night?
Yes.
And what will it be upfit with?
That's the lights and radios, lights and sirens and radios.
Because the chief is often on scene frequently, and
Yeah.
as a result, you want to have the lights and whistles to protect yourself, especially on a freeway accident or in a tight spot situation.
Correct.
Dark
Whenever
dark road,
if I
that
ever
type
park
of
my
thing.
car on the side of the road on a call, I have to turn the lights on just to
Yeah,
protect me and the public as well from.
yeah. Upfitting is always, and as the police will tell you, upfitting is always a costly venture, but it's just, it's really necessary from a safety standpoint. Okay, any other questions on that? Nope, okay.
This is just our service agreements. It's pretty much boilerplate slide from last year. Nothing's really changed as far as service agreements. Still have Ehlers for HVAC, Stryker, which is our cots, our loading mechanism for the cots, our defibrillators, and our CPR devices. And then finally, we have Apollo Fire Equipment. They do our air packs, or the SCBA. Every year, they're required to be tested when they do that certification.
Can you talk Stryker into giving us more discounts in exchange for letting them park their vehicle
They actually
on our
do.
property?
We'll work on it, but we do, I met with them not too long ago, and, yeah, that we do get some stuff for that, but that's one reason we got a pretty cut rate on that power load. Well, I apologize, I made that font way too small, didn't I?
Okay.
This is our last item for emergency management slide. The first item is we would like to take the current senior bus. This is one of the retired senior buses we have. This is the better of the two. And we'd like to upfit it for a mobile command post. What this will be utilized by both us and the police department. It really came about, we had a call a few months ago where we were kind of working together in command of a scene, and we had the USAR team activated looking for someone who supposedly walked away from their home. And it was, the police department's commander was in one vehicle. It was a rainy night, it was nasty. My commander was in another vehicle, and they weren't unified in their command. What this will do is what we talk about all the time when we try to stress unified command on these scenes. That means that the police department, the fire department are working together. I mean, it could even mean everybody. I mean, Patrick could be here from DPW working with us on something if it was big enough sort of scene. This will let us be in one place at one time in a nice dry environment. We're gonna upfit it. It's gonna be a very basic upfit. It's kind of a work table that both commanders can sit at, a couple whiteboards, maybe a few screens. We've allocated $15,000 for this, and part of that $15,000 will be mechanics, you know, making sure the brakes are good, make sure the tires are good and all that stuff, and a graphics package on it.
Does that number include what we have to pay the senior account for the bus?
No.
The used bus?
No.
So we'll get it for free, or we have
Yeah,
to give
it's
them a
our- it's
couple
ours.
thousand bucks?
We own it. We own it, so we're getting it for free.
Yeah.
What do you think you would put on as a graphic? Like, is it gonna say command post? Is it gonna be?
Plymouth Township Fire Department in big letters, and then police department in small letters in bottom corner.
That's not accurate.
Plymouth Township Fire and the police.
And police.
And those guys.
And then finally, we have so back to this, if you were to go out and buy this, the very basic command post, the starting cost of these things is like $300,000. So this is, and we don't, I think the police chief will agree, we don't need a $300,000 vehicle, but it would be nice to have something that we can work out of in these situations.
It'd be nice to have, and I'll add, an area that we can have a laptop computer, we can push up graphics, we'll have whiteboards inside, we'll have chargers for our preps. That's something that we don't have to send officers back to the station to get new preps, we can charge them right there. We can have all that power inside that vehicle and be right out at a scene.
Will you have an onboard generator separate?
Yeah, you just took the words out of my mouth. I actually we have a small generator that would be more than adequate for running. It's a great little Honda generator that'll just probably live with this. It's kind of a reserve item.
So it'll be set up so that can be plugged in conveniently and safely?
Yep. It's a little 1,000-watt, Honda generator that I think would serve the purpose very well.
How does
It's
that
not going to
work?
have a huge power draw.
How does that work at a scene? Like, who's driving it and how's it
Well,
getting there?
that's one thing we've kind of worked out. Basically, we've kind of roughly talked about this. If it's a police incident, one of my people will take it out there. If it's a fire incident, well, a police officer will bring it out. If it's both, we can get the DPW on call, maybe to bring it out there.
And we would have to go through training for all the pieces of the car or the vehicle, and go through that and have folks that are trained to go.
And this is for situations where you're anticipating an extensive amount of time being on scene.
Correct, and if we're dealing with elements and things like that, and again, to bring everybody into one area, to have that unified command, which is best practice.
Really smart.
Okay. And then last on there, sorry, about one last thing, we have a new controller for the tornado sirens, for the emergency alert sirens.
That's in this building? The controller will be located in this building?
Yeah, that's in dispatch, correct, Dan?
That's in the dispatch center.
Okay, any other questions from board members?
What did you assume for income from transports this year versus last year?
I haven't, but I can get it for you, what we're assuming. I mean, it's 300,000 roughly last year, 318,000, I believe.
How are those collections going? You have to write off, how much are you writing off? You can, eventually you'll do some report, so.
Yeah, okay, Dan. We don't write a lot off. We collect a pretty high rate. We're very fortunate in that.
Okay, any questions from the, yeah,
You've
John?
asked for 4 chainsaws.
Yes.
Yes.
We have 3 stations.
Right.
Will the one station that has the most use get 2 chainsaws?
No, I have 4 apparatus. I have
How many
4
chainsaws?
fire apparatus. 4 fire engines, so I have three engines and 1 ladder truck. Each one's getting a saw.
Okay, we've certainly proven the realtor's right that they advertise Lake Point as trees, trees, trees.
So Pat, in 2023, our total expenditure for the fire department was just over 5 million, a little under 5.1, rising to 6.3 for 25. What are the elements of costs that the main things that have driven up that appropriation?
The biggest cost is the wage,
Is wages.
is wages.
I mean, right now, we're factoring
Contractually, it's-
we're factoring a 4% wage increase, which is what we have on the table right now with the union.
Transports are budgeted at 216,000.
For this year.
Yeah, for 2025.
Okay, so, yeah, the transport revenue is budgeted at 216,000 for 25.
Good, thank you.
Okay, any other questions from anybody else? We're good?
I'm just wondering what the seniors are gonna do without their vehicle.
We bought 2 new buses, 2 new senior vans, using ARPA money and donations from the public sector.
She asked that question
Park
first.
and Don Sonnen and a lot of other good people who chipped in. You're welcome. Okay, thank you very much, Chief. And now we have Chief Nightel and the police. That sounds like a band.
Supervisor, you would not want to hear me sing, so.
No, we don't want that.
All right, very good. First of all, I want to thank the board
for the opportunity to lead this department. I think our department, the building blocks of our department start with integrity, professionalism, and community service. That's what we're built on, and that's what this budget is built on. Our expectation, we set the bar high, and what we try to do with every interaction with our residents and with our visitors is to exceed the expectations of those that we serve. To start, if we go to the next slide, please, is our 2025 recommended organizational chart. The sworn officers currently, 2024, we're at 31 officers. My recommendation is that we add one sworn officer. Dispatch center would remain the same. In the area of also in patrol, we would upgrade one officer position from a police officer to a police sergeant. Currently, there are a lot of myths out there about how many police cars are driving around the town. We have one sergeant. We're on 12-hour shifts. We have one sergeant and 4 officers on each shift. When a police sergeant has training, calls in sick, or has vacation, we have no supervision on the road. We have had incidents, very serious incidents in the township when we have not had supervisors on the road. I live in the township. I respond very quickly. One of those incidents included a barricaded gunman on Sheldon Road. I was the first supervisor to arrive at the scene. We did not have a supervisor working that night because the supervisor was off. Putting on my Gordon Graham hat, the biggest liability for police departments is failure to train, failure to supervise. If we don't have supervisors out in the street, that's fairly easy to check that box. So we need supervisors out there. My recommendation by moving one officer position up to a sergeant is that we would have a sergeant on the midnight shift that would be a swing sergeant. So that sergeant would fill in when we have sergeants take the night off, they're on extended vacation, or have training. So they would fill in there. Similar departments in the area, Northfield Township has a lieutenant and a sergeant on each of their 4 shifts. My recommendation is to have that one police officer move to sergeant. During the day shift, we don't have complete coverage, but myself, the assistant chief, the lieutenant, Sergeant Hoffman, and our detective bureau can fill in if we need it during the days. On the weekends, again, on our day shift, we have situations where we don't have a supervisor working, so one of us would have to respond on those scenes. Those 2 positions. In the clerical area, I have a recommendation to add one administrative assistant. We do not have any administrative assistants in the building. Administrative assistant, in particular, this position, would be to supplement, to let the police officers do police work. So myself, the assistant chief, the lieutenant, as well as our supervisor, our director in dispatch, this position would assume responsibilities, to include our HR work, which much of that is sensitive, collaborating with HR, MMRMA, paperwork processes that go through for anything with our insurance. We have issues right now in our detective bureau with data collection, storage, administrative. We have community outreach projects, IT, storage, and information on accreditation and administration. So those are the positions. If we go to the next slide, that's the current organizational chart. Yes, sir.
What is the assumption you have for wages and benefits for the administrative assistant?
The assumption
Total, is it 100,000?
For that one position.
65,000.
65,000.
Benefits?
No, not including benefits.
Okay, all right. Next slide, please. The CMV, Commercial Motor Vehicle and Traffic Enforcement Officer. Of my 2.5 years as police chief here, I would estimate that 80%, and that's a fair estimate, of the complaints that come in are about truck traffic. Truck traffic, as many of us live in the township, is something that has increased over the years. Commercial Motor Vehicle Officer, we request from Wayne County, they have one CMV vehicle for the entire county, so they do come out. MSP doesn't come out, but it's very occasionally. This recommendation would be this officer's full-time commitment would be commercial motor vehicle and traffic enforcement. So be enforcement of Federal Motor Carrier Safety Act
and to address citizen complaints regarding truck traffic within the township, enforce the state and county route, size, and weight restriction on the truck. The issues we're having with a lot of our streets, unfortunately, is we have a lot of trucks out there that are overweight. And not only that, spitting rocks up into our vehicles and things like that. One of the areas that I'm particularly interested in for this officer is to collect the data, where these trucks are coming from and where are they going to? They have business in Plymouth Township, or are they just passing through? These trucks and these trucking companies know where commercial motor vehicles are and where they're not, and they certainly try to avoid those areas, and that would certainly be a deterrent. Would assist citizen complaints regarding traffic control issues within the township. This officer would be a member of the Western Wayne Accident Crash Response Team. Now that team is a collaboration of, I believe, 8 different agencies in Western Wayne County. So if you have a serious accident or a fatality, that unit would come out. We've utilized that unit, I believe, at least 3 times in the last year and a half that they've come out to Plymouth Township. We would also respond to assist agencies like Redford Township. We've went out to assist Romulus, Garden City. They are all part of that unit. This officer would be involved with that. They would investigate fatal and serious accidents that happen within the township and coordinate all accidents in the township and review them. Our officers, different from other departments that have traffic bureaus that overlook their accident reports and how they're investigating accidents, this officer would overlook that. Coordinate community outreach programs and safety presentations to township residents. And when I think of this, I think of baby seats in cars, having training to show folks exactly how to make sure that their baby seats are put in the right way, as well as traffic distracted driving and using their seatbelts for our younger drivers. The revenue stream, this would be a byproduct of this position, but there is a potential revenue stream to offset. We have annual court costs currently that we pay. My recommendation would be any costs that go over to the court, 35th District Court, would be utilized and reduce the amount of money that we pay the court through these fines. So I've met with representatives from the 35th District Court. Northville Township has a program, Canton has a program, very successful, and also are able to cut into those costs.
So Chief, that money does not go to the library system?
No, it depends on what kind of ticket it is, but 70% of for example, the weight tickets, that all comes back to the municipality, excuse me. Okay. But yeah, so it depends on what type of ticket it is, but yes, sir.
I would think our closest collaboration should be with Northville Township, especially on Beck and Ridge, et cetera. So what kind of outreach have you had with them so far on the truck?
So we've had 2 of our officers. One of our officers has already had a great deal of the training, and one of those officers was already, when they have time, when we're fully shifted, is able to has written several of those violations. We have ridden along with Northville Township, spent time with them on traffic stops to get an idea exactly how they're doing that. So we have a very close working relationship with them right now. Their corridor on 5 miles, very similar to our corridor on 5 Mile in Ridge, and the area is North Territorial. Also in this area, there's a young lady that lives right across the street here on Haggerty, and Officer Fetter, who is our trained officer, every time he's out there stopping a truck, she's clapping. You know, and she's giving them a thumbs up. So I've seen that with my own eyes. So very nice lady, and she's appreciative of what's going on. A lot of these, when we're making these stops, a lot of the truck drivers don't even realize that they're not supposed to be on Haggerty Road. You know, so that's another, we can educate these drivers and let them know where they can be and where they can't be. Okay. Any more questions on that? Go ahead, Chuck.
What is the total cost to outfit that? You've got equipment to buy, training, and you've got to hire a person to backfill, right?
Yeah. So I'm only looking in this budget for the 1 officer position. The training, we've already
expended
the training. We have the equipment. Now I don't have a truck right now, so we're going to have to utilize a police car. I didn't put that in the budget. Certainly Northville Township has a pickup truck that's a CMV vehicle. I think depending on the success of the program, that's certainly something we can look at down the road. Yeah.
Will this person be available to do road patrol if we have some high absenteeism? In other words, will they be able to be deployed in a different on an as-needed basis, a
Yeah,
different
my-
role.
my
In other
expecta-
words, it's not my job, I don't do that road patrol kind of
Yeah.
thing, or is it going to be, yes, sir, where I'm needed?
Yeah. So the supervisor makes fun of me sometimes and calls me Batman, but myself, the assistant chief, the lieutenant, when we have hot runs, everybody's going. And this position will be no different. They will take runs. If they're close, if they're the closest car, they'll take runs. They are police officers first and foremost. They will do police work when needed. And again, if we're short and then we need to supplement a shift, we'll do that. The other expectation is we're gonna be asking a lot for this officer because we have OWI details, we have safety belt details, we have distracted driving details. These truck drivers, when they figure out what the hours are, right, they're gonna try to drive around. Maybe they'll try to drive on Saturdays, Sundays. So they're gonna have to be asked to work all different shifts. So this shift is not gonna be a set shift. They're gonna be moved around depending on the need and depending on what we have going on in the community.
Okay. Anybody else on the board? No?
Okay, very good. I kind of jumped ahead of myself with upgrading the officer position to the sergeant position. Again, this is something that we are one of the very, very few communities that do not have supervisors working on every single shift. Other chiefs that I speak with, kind of roll their eyes when I talk about this, but this is definitely an issue that I think we need to fix. This is something, since I've been here in the last 2.5 years, that has been a priority, and that's why I put it in there. The administrative assistant position, I went through the different roles in that position. Again, the goal with that position is to let the police officers do police work and have the administrative assistant handle the areas that we can do that. We don't have a person to handle all of our vehicle, all the paperwork that go with the vehicle. That would be another area that would be handled. It'd be things like that. And
Talking about maintenance?
not
records?
maintenance, but just handling the paperwork and the processing. When I first got here, we had issues with oil changes. So, I mean, things like that, maintaining to make sure that the vehicles are, in a lot of that is paperwork and keeping track of what goes on with that. During accreditation, a lot of departments have accreditation managers. That's their only job. Accreditation, a lot of parts about that are administrative duties. So.
Okay.
So how many people are we hiring? Let's go through them. Incremental.
Incrementally, one commercial motor vehicle officer
Okay.
would be my recommendation.
So you're hiring from within, though? Like, you're gonna test
Well, we would be
the
adding.
officer?
My recommendation is to add a spot. This position would not be a rookie officer, though, no. So it would be,
More time, you would
yeah,
hire
so-
a sergeant from outside of the department?
no, we would be adding a position, so it'd be another officer position,
Or-
but,
and then that
the-
one from
yeah, the recommendation would be a senior officer that would take that role, but we would backfill with a younger officer or a lateral transfer, depending on what we're able to get.
So from outside Plymouth Township, you have to find one incremental head. Is that what you're gonna do? You'll add
Correct.
one head.
Yeah, one for the police officer position.
And one for
from
the
outside.
administrative assistant.
Administrative assistant. And then we have an existing police officer that I would move that position and make that a sergeant position.
Right, but that's not hiring someone.
No, that's not. So it's correct, Chuck.
That would be a pay increase.
Correct. Yes, it would.
It's a promotion.
Promotion, yes, it would, yeah.
Okay.
All right, next slide. This is our pie chart for the 2025 Police Department general budget, $6,940,600. Three, the green, the blue, and the dark blue represent over 85% of the overall police general budget, which is tied into employees' contractual obligations. Our contracts with POM and COM were settled this year, so those numbers are all plugged in there.
So the retirement benefits include both the defined contribution and the defined benefit plans?
Yes. Yes, they do.
Yes.
And then retired officers' medical is not in this, it's in a different pot, or is it in there? It's in here? Which one would be under the blue?
Insurance benefits.
Dark blue.
The dark blue.
Yes, sir.
Because
For insurance.
allegedly, retirement, medical is going up 15% beginning January? Is that what you're assuming? That's a big jump.
I don't think it was.
The other one, the active employees, it was, I don't know, 4 or 5. But for some reason, I think that there was a big increase in January.
I believe the Medicare,
41%.
Pardon?
I heard 41%.
41%, that's due to changes in federal law. When we talk about free prescription drugs and reduced costs for prescription drugs, ultimately, the employer has to pay for that.
So did you use the word 41?
41%.
That's astronomical. Okay, so is that in that number?
Yep.
Yes.
The 41% increase?
It may not quite be all there because we just got word of that increase after we had put all the numbers in. We did budget for some amount of increase, but it may need to be adjusted once everything kind of flows through and, you know, we see everything. I literally just got the information from HR 2 days ago.
So the premium, if it was $100 this year, is now going to be $141.
That's my understanding. Yeah, I'd have to
100 a month
look through and work through
to
the calculations.
$141. That's huge.
Yeah, that's the federal government's mandate on employers. So when you talk about free prescription drugs, it's not free. It's your boss is paying for it. Okay.
Okay, we're good, next slide. Police Department purchases. Recommendation is that we have add 3 Ford Interceptor utility patrol cars, Axon body-worn cameras and in-car cameras. We've spread this out over 5 years. It would be a 5-year lease. This is a program, we are end of life, both on our body cameras and our in-car cameras. Lieutenant Krebs did extensive research. We looked at 5 different companies and felt that Axon was the best for us. Livonia Police Department is switching to Axon. Many of the top agencies around are going to Axon. It has a lot of familiarity with, for example, our tasers and other pieces of equipment. So that's the second. Radar Speed Trailer. This is a program that is very, very successful and very wanted in our community. We have 2 right now. As I mentioned at the last meeting, one of them was struck by a OWI driver, and we got the insurance on that. That's been replaced. We are about 2 to 3 weeks behind, maybe even a month on the request. So by adding this 3rd trailer, we'll be able to put them out in 3 different locations within the township. The comment I always get from my friends in the community is, you know, are you gonna send me a ticket in the mail, chief, or what's going on with this speed trailer? But I know Chuck and some of the other folks on the board, these speed trailers collect data on every single vehicle that goes by. And there's a very comprehensive report. Sergeant Fritz is in charge of the program. When we get contacted, he reports back to the citizen who asked for the speed trailer, and it lists exactly how fast the vehicles are going. And what we can do with that data is we can determine how bad is the issue there? How often do we have to have patrol cars there, and make that a directed patrol area? Because that's what we do in these areas, make them directed patrol. The traffic data collector, this is going to be new for us. This would be a device that is hooked onto a sign or in the street. It's much more. So the speed trailers are right out there. Everybody sees them, right? And then you you see it, and then you slow down before you get into it. This device would be very, not, when I say hidden, stealth. Thank you, Chuck. That's the word I was looking for. Very stealth. It would be put up. It collects the same type of data, pulls it in, and then we're able to track that area. It's movable, so we can move it to different areas throughout the township. So again, there'll be times when we utilize the speed trailers to be very obvious and to send a message. There'll be other times that we'll put that, utilize that piece of equipment.
So a couple questions on those. We're not gathering license plate information, are we?
On those? No.
On any of these? Speed trailer or this camera?
No.
Are we gathering license plate
video.
information?
No.
Are we gathering video? We're gathering photographs? Okay.
No, this is tracking speed.
I get these questions all the time, so I just want that out there.
So is any of these, are we purchasing, apparently Northville has license plate readers. And a lot of, almost every community in southeast Michigan has it. If you've ever been to England, there are license plate readers and closed circuit TV everywhere. So what are we doing here?
They also arrest people for speaking
I was
their
gonna say,
mind, too.
you're.
Right,
Don't
I
want to
agree.
be like
That's
England.
not apples and
Certainly not.
oranges.
So is license plate readers are they in here at all?
Yeah.
In any of are we buying any license plate readers?
This, we have, Dan, you want to hit on that section?
Yeah, so we have two items in the budget. One, there are two that are specific to LPR programs. One of them is a software program that we pay a membership fee for, and that allows us access to everybody else's license plate cameras, which we have very successfully used to solve some fairly high-profile crimes here. We have another line item in the budget to purchase license plate readers if we so choose. Now, that item was in last year's budget too. We didn't end up doing it, but it's there in case we decide to.
So it's not in this page, right?
It's not in this page, no.
So license plate readers, we'll have to talk about those.
And as far as license, and those are used where you have basically probable cause, is that fair statement? The license plate readers that Kudra's talking about?
Yeah, we're one of the only communities around that.
I understand, but to utilize that, it's not random. I mean, you have to have some element of probable cause, right?
The license plate readers, they collect data on folks that are going through
Okay.
the intersection. They're also hot sheets, so if a stolen vehicle, if we had license plate readers, for example, on all the entrance and the exit ramps, when a stolen vehicle entered the township, we would get a notification immediately. It would say a vehicle just got off southbound 275 to westbound, and we would get a picture of the plate.
Okay.
Farmington Hills, Southfield, we're Livonia. I talked to Chief Gralski last week. They are going to license plate readers. I think Northfield Township, they have them, I think, approximately 30 of them that are out there. Farmington Hills has, I think, 45. My one chief's opinion, it's the future of law enforcement. I mean, the Dearborn Police Department, I believe, has had 5 solved homicides this year because of license plate readers. Farmington Hills just the other day had a missing 12-year-old, got off the freeway at Orchard Lake and 696, pinged on the information. The officers responded to the area, found the car, and recovered the juvenile. So there are a lot of my recommendation, would be to have a company like Flock come in and give a presentation so that folks understand everything about them. The Michigan State Police has them all up and down Southfield Road. So
Okay.
I don't know if that answered your question, Chuck.
Very thoroughly, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else on this slide? here,
Yeah, just active shooter training, protective equipment. Every year we train with the Canton Police Department and the Plymouth Police Department. We did this year again in early August. We were at Hoban Elementary. We trained there for active assailant training. Part of that training is we try to make it as realistic as possible. So we have paintball equipment that we utilize. This is the protective wear to protect the officers when they're doing that training. This also, following COVID, is a best practice to have every officer have their own piece of equipment. The problem we have right now is when we go to this training, we have to borrow equipment from other police agencies. We don't, currently have our own. So, new mobile data, computers for the patrol cars. Again, this is end of life issue. We are requesting 11. Temporary stop signs. These are, for the storms. Some of ours didn't make it out of the last storm, so we had to replace them. So we're recommending 10 of those. Rechargeable flashlights and carrying pouches. Some of the flashlights, when I got here, were at least 15 years old. There's technology, equipment. My recommendation is the one that I have on my belt right now is, to get those replaced. We're recommending 35 of those. And the last one on this slide would be data switches. This is for our police department server. This is a recommendation from Bob Jenks, our IT director.
How much does that add up to, that page? 500,000, or is it?
I could get you the number on that. That would be under capital outlay, which I think is
So this is the total.
433,000.
Pardon?
So capital outlay for the police department budget, I think, is 433,000 roughly. So that's what that adds up to. Now, there might be some other small items in there that didn't.
Some of
meet
this will
that.
be paid for with forfeiture funds, won't it?
None of these items.
The forfeiture budget will be done separately in a couple weeks. Because we can't, we have to segregate those funds.
I know.
Okay, and again, a lot of this is in your budgets. I provided you with the draft budgets last week, and this is all outlined in great detail. So if you have any questions, any granular questions like that, you can either reach out to the chief, myself, or Liz, or Carol, and they'll give you an answer.
All right, next slide. Thank you, sir. 2025 dispatch and jail combined budget, proposed budget, $1,844,400. Again, the dark blue, the light blue, and the brown colored are personnel under contracts. Under contracts, that would be 85% of the budget. And then we have 37,000 in capital outlay and just under 240,000 in operations, 13% of it.
This is including what the city gives us for dispatch?
So this is our overall budget.
That's what
The
I'm
city
saying.
pays a portion
Inside
of
of this is what we get from the city.
Yeah, it's based upon call volume. It usually ends up being around 33%.
Right, that's what I understood.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions on that slide? All right, dispatch jail equipment purchases. Dispatch console radio encryption software. We had a lien audit, and this was a lien recommendation to upgrade 3. The second is a computer-aided dispatch, a CAD, computer replacement. There's 3 there, and this is a Clemis requirement that was made by Clemis. The third, replacement monitors for the CAD workstation. We're requesting 2, so 2 of each of the 3 dispatch stations is nearing end of life and need those to get replaced. Television monitors for lockup and security camera monitors. We're requesting 2 additional television monitors. We are conducting more virtual patrols than we ever have before. We have cameras not only at the soccer park, we now have cameras that we're monitoring at Hilltop. We have cameras here at the township as well as our lockup. We are also working with the school district. The school district is going to give us access when there's incidents at the school. We can get into their video system and see what's going on real time as well. So that's the reason for those 2 new monitors.
Any of this available for MMRMA grants or anything like that?
So
We've been very successful in getting grants. Usually they're about $13,000, although now we understand that the MMRMA is tightening the rules on those grants. They've been pretty liberal in the past, but now the bar is being set a lot higher. Not that it's unattainable, but it's pretty much been free money for all the communities for the last several years, but they are starting to clamp down on that now.
And I would say every time MMRA sends us information on a grant, we look at it and determine if we're able to access it or not. Is that accurate, Assistant Chief?
Yeah, so the last information that I had from MMRMA was that they had suspended the RAP grant program. Now, that's temporary while they assess how much money they have to dole out. And then they're going to kind of revamp the different categories that you can apply for funding in. I don't have a date on when that program is going to come back or when that reboot is going to take effect. I would hope that it would be within the next year, and certainly, they're our insurance carrier. We have communication with them. I know I'm a first name basis with the RAP grant program coordinator. We communicate via email, and she will send me the updated guidelines when they do decide what those are going to look like, and then anything that we can apply a RAP grant to, we will. And we've been very successful in the past at getting those.
Okay.
All right, very good. This slide, the numbers, this is comparing 2024 to the 2025 recommendation. The total, 8.2 million. The recommended amount, 8.809, which is a 6.99% increase. From the forfeiture accounts, the 20,500 would be the taser lease agreements that we use forfeiture money to pay for. And then the bottom is our Dell computers. We lease our computers at $4,020 that we take from IRS annually.
Why such a small amount of spending from forfeiture 2024 versus 2025?
In the last couple of years, we have seen a decrease. We have a lot of, as I call them, irons in the fire for forfeiture, but we're not seeing the levels of forfeiture. So the strategy on that is to let the accounts build up a little bit more, and then we would get back, hopefully with more money coming in, get back. Traditionally, we've paid for our vehicles annually with the forfeiture money, and that's where we would want to get back to.
So the well is a little dry now.
It's a little dry currently. But I can tell you, like I said, I never want to make any promises, but we're involved in some very big investigations, both on the DEA side as well as the Homeland Security investigation side. So we're hopeful some of those cases will come to fruition and will bring in forfeiture dollars.
Okay.
All right.
Is there another slide here?
Yes. Okay, this is a slide you haven't seen before, but I think it's very, very important. These are areas, and this goes back to the question about MMRMA. These are areas where we are, in our department, we don't have a grant writer. We don't have that man right over there, the assistant chief, and myself are the grant writers. So, and Sergeant Titterington. So this was new for us. The Office of Highway Safety and Traffic Control, last year we got 18,000 from them. This year we have requested 11,000. One of the reasons for the decrease is because our staffing numbers have been down this year. We're still looking to hire 4 police officers. The overtime slots, because we have a lot of overtime due to sick calls and things like that, that we just weren't able to fill in and have officers for those overtime slots. So the reduction is down to $11,120. The second piece is the Public Act 2023. This will show in our budget, and this is the way we do it, a $30,000 increase in our training, but that's all money that we're going to get back. So the state is, they have some mandated training that our officers have to go through, but this year, last year was 14,000 roughly.
Yeah.
And then this year, coming up, 2025, they're going to be giving us $30,000 for training. The 911 training funds, traditionally, they're between $14,000 and $18,000 that the state of Michigan gives that for our dispatch center. That's money that we get out there and work. Extra duty overtime reimbursement. Last year, and traditionally, we average just over $10,000 a year of that comes in through, and those extra duties, our houses of worship will contract us to have police officers at various events, various masses, as well as businesses have contracted us. You know, if they're having an employee that's getting fired and they want an officer assigned there or something like that. So we have that. Task Force Officer overtime reimbursement. We have a position at DEA that we're locked into, I believe it's over 18,000 annually to cover overtime for our task force officer. So every month, overtime, we do some submittals, and then they come, the money comes back. So with HSI, it's a little more hit and miss. It depends on funding with them. Traditionally, they've been between $6,000 and $9,000 that they reimburse the overtime as well. So, and then last is our ballistic vest reimbursement, where we put in a grant for that. We get half of the cost of a vest. Any questions on that?
We have that in here. We wouldn't until we get a.
Okay, community outreach. For those of you who have been there, Coffee with a Cop, we do that quarterly. We move it around the township to various coffee shops. It's been very successful for us to get out in the community and get to know our community and find out what's going on. Our senior fraud and exploitation program, that's a program that we traditionally run at the Welcome Station. This last year, we've also held, we got a request from Our Lady of Good Counsel, one of their senior groups. We gave a presentation out there. Independence Village, we had about 60 that attended that. Tom Champagne runs that program. I believe it's very successful. In our stats last year, our overall frauds were down close to 35%. So we're hopeful that that program is contributing to that. Run, Hide, Fight, active assailant training. We are one of the few departments around that offers free training to our businesses and houses of worship. The training is about 45 minutes to an hour. We push that information out. Companies like Adient, some of the bigger companies in the township, and we have delivered that training too. So that is offered free of charge. We have a cadre of 5 officers that are trained, and it's basically run, hide, fight principles. Houses of Worship Committee meets twice a year. That committee is run by our school resource officer, specifically in the summer. That Houses of Worship Committee, we're constantly, we pushed out some information on Monday to that group. So we're constantly talking, the information goes out and the information comes back. So we're working with our Houses of Worship. One Pill Can Kill, opioid awareness. Some in this room have been to that training. That's offered by our DEA task force officer, who's Caitlin Nicely, and she does a great job with that. This year we plan also to target, continue to target our younger group, particularly our later high school and early college age students. Police Day at the Ballpark. This was an event that started with our No Shave November. Our officers every year are given the opportunity to donate to an organization. Last year and also it's a great partnership with us in the city of Plymouth. We raised over $2,500 last year. We made a donation to the Miracle League in Plymouth. And then we also came up with the idea to have Police Day at the Ballpark. We had over 30 members of our department, which would include my family was there, Chief Cox's family, officers, their kids, their wives, their husbands. Nobody was working. There was no overtime. This was our officers being out in the community with the Miracle League, giving back to the community. So I think it was just a fantastic event. And we had our community outreach tent out there. We had giveaways for the kids. All of us were out on the field and we were partnered up with the players. And it was just, I was out there. It was a fantastic experience. So that was something that we did in the community. On October 11th this year, and I'm going to send the board the information, we are going to have our second annual Faith in Blue event. This is an event that is kind of spurred out of our Houses of Worship Committee, and this will be at Northridge Church from 5 to 7 on October the 11th. We are going to have representatives from all the federal agencies, including FBI, DEA, ATF, you name it. Livonia Police Department is committed to have officers there, and it's going to be very similar to Touch Truck. If you have young kids, we would love to have them out there. It's a great experience for them to meet the officers, to talk to the officers. Our special operations team will be there. Our mobile field force team will be out there. So I'll send that information to the invitations for all our federal partners are out, and I'll send that invitation to the board. Our honor guard, we have one of the best honor guards, and I'll brag a little bit in the area. Our honor guard led earlier this summer in June, they had a ceremony for fallen officers at our state capitol. And our honor guard led all of the other honor guards in that parade to the Capitol. I was there, I saw them in action, and they are really phenomenal. So we're very proud of that. And again, we work so closely with the city of Plymouth. Again, that is a joint venture. For those who were able to make it on the 4th of July parade, I was there, got to see them. They led the parade in downtown Plymouth. And the last is March is Reading Month. So one of the things I told you a year ago is that we were going to be out in the schools and we were going to offer a police officer to come in and speak to any class in Plymouth Township. We had over 52 requests from teachers to come and speak. Myself, the assistant chief, our school resource officer, he managed this entire program. Many days we had 3 or 4 readings in a day, but it was a phenomenal opportunity for us to get out in the community. And again, we were out, for me, my children went to Red Bell. I got to go and speak to the kids at Red Bell. It was fantastic. So another great community outreach benefit. We participated in the Farron Fall Run as well as the Ivywood Fall Run. We were out there. They had powder. They were throwing powder on us. We had myself as the older guy and 3 of the younger officers out there that ran with the kids, and it was really a great experience. Any questions on any of that? Okay. Thank you.
What do you mean they were throwing powder at you?
So, in the parents' way, it was interesting, but when you ran by the stations, they had, one was the pink station, they would throw powder. One was
powdered donuts.
You're covered
Yeah,
with color.
so the fall and the color of the leaves, that was the whole premise, but it was great. It was great exercise. We got to run with the kids and be with the kids, and it was just fantastic. And I just responded today to Ivywood. They're having the program again, and I know Farron will do the same. So we'll participate. If the school calls us, we go. So if a school calls us for an event, we will be there. Okay, budget needs beyond 2025. Patrol cars, that's reoccurring every year. Replacing of our in-car printers is due in 2026. Replacement of thermal imagers is 2027. Those are the thermal imagers that our officer on the night shift can use if we're looking for either a subject that fled on us or a missing person, night vision type glasses. Replacement of 911 software, 2027. Replacement of patrol car radios, 2028. The HVAC system replacement, the HVAC system in our building, I'm not sure that the proper size was ever installed in that part of the building, so that's definitely going to be an issue for us coming up.
That's true for the entire building. I think
Yeah.
they bought a cheap system, so.
Yeah. So
Doesn't work. It doesn't work for anybody.
No, it's in poor shape. K-9 program. This is a program right now. If we need a K-9 officer to track a suspect, to help with a missing person, we have to call other agencies to have a K-9 come in. We have had organizations in the community. The Lions Club has offered to pay for everything outside of the car. We would have to fund a vehicle. The vehicle is a little more expensive than a patrol vehicle. It's about $125,000 to outfit a K-9 vehicle. The program not only would work for that, there could be possible revenue with working with Drug Enforcement Administration and narcotics sniffs, as well as being out in the schools. So that's something that we'd like to add down the road. I think it would be very beneficial for us, and it's painful for me to ask for another agency for a K-9. Of course, they do offer it if they're working or if they're available, but I certainly think we could have our own. Police.
Chief, is that something that they give you, or you have to pay for the animal?
No, we would have to fund the animal.
I think you're talking about mutual aid, right? When you call up
Well, you said you feel bad having to ask for one.
Yeah, so we have to, if we have to track a missing person or a suspect, we have to call one of the other agencies and hope that one of the other agencies will have somebody work it. Traditionally, other agencies won't call in dogs, but if, for example, if Northville has a dog working, they generally would send it over and help us, or Canton or Livonia. But if we had our own dog, we would mobilize, we would call the dog in and have the dog handle, our
And
business.
is there a cost? Like, do you know how much a dog
Yeah,
would
so a
cost,
dog,
training
so
and
all the costs for a dog are about just under $20,000. It's $18,000 for everything. That would be the dog, the training, the food, everything like that. The car is about $125,000. It's more expensive than a patrol vehicle because there has to be air conditioning unit in there for the dog, if the officer's on a run. A K-9 officer would be an existing officer position too, so I would not look to add another officer, but to train one of our current officers. K-9 units, I'm going to talk a little bit about drones in a minute. These are all ways that we can retain our police officers. We're down 4 police officers. Very difficult to retain police officers. We don't have pensions here. We have to fight against departments that have pensions, and a lot of them do. So by having these other opportunities, it gives the officers other opportunities to do things outside of their normal patrol duties. So that's K-9. Drone is another program. I've met with representatives from the University of Michigan. They have, and again, always looking to try to find a way to fund things without us paying for them. But they're applying for a grant. We're looking to join them in the grant. And I met with them about a month and a half ago, so we're looking at that. Again, the drone program will be we'd have to train pilots. Our officers would be the pilots. But again, it gives officers, and we have interest. We have 2 officers that would be interested in being pilots. And then last, I just want to talk about police and fire preps. Our police and fire preps are 10 years old. This is the prep radio on my side here, the radios.
Okay, so let's.
Go ahead.
Hold on, I want Bob to go back. Okay, so when we say, I'm teeing you up for this, so I want you to talk about the radio situation. Okay.
So our radio situation is the radios are end of life, both on the police and the fire side.
These are the handhelds.
That's this right here, the handheld radios. So we have, working with our partners at the fire department, we have representatives come in, and this project would be roughly $800,000 for both departments, for both police and fire. This is this is one of those prices of doing business. We need prep radios. These radios are end of life. We would look, I've talked to the township supervisor about, and I know Elizabeth's working on some research about how we can fund this.
So why, I'll take it from here. So this radio issue is nationwide, if not regional. And so every community, certainly in Wayne County that we talk to, is having the same issue right now, because these Motorola, I believe they're Motorola 800 megahertz radios, are all at end of life. They need to be replaced, and they can no longer be repaired. I understand they're no longer being serviced, or at least they're starting to reduce the level of service that they're providing. They're getting out of that program. And this is not unique to Plymouth Township. This is all the communities around here. As you know, we belong to the Conference of Western Wayne, and I know they've been researching this issue extensively. They're trying to get grants from the state and federal government to help cover this, and we would all benefit if we could get grants. However, when you're looking at grants for a region like Wayne County, we are considered a wealthy community. And so if there is any grant money that's out there, again, depends on the language of the grant, but more likely than not, the grant money is going to go to the communities that truly cannot afford it. And that's going to be your Inksters, Redford, Dearborn Heights, Ecorse, River Rouge, those guys. So we have to be sensitive to the fact that while we should always strive to get grant money for this, if we get it, that's gravy. That's wonderful. So I want to make it clear now, Chief, you have here replacement by 2028. I think we should probably
I'm sorry.
That's the patrol car.
That's the
patrol car radios. Okay, fine. So
these are right now.
No, this is a right now problem, and so don't be fooled by that. There is currently no money in this current budget, this current draft budget. There's no money for these radios because it is a very high ticket prospect. So we have asked Elizabeth Cutie and her staff, as well as police and fire, to investigate separate funding for these radios. This is a big ticket item, as expensive as a fire engine or a couple ambulances. And so my professional recommendation is that the board next year look at bonding for these radios, or some kind of a payment plan. I don't know if that would be a lease agreement. I don't know if that would be a buy lease or whatever. The details have to be fleshed out, but I think we have to look at this as a major capital acquisition, similar to a vehicle or a fire engine, and I think we have to, our debts right now are very low. We have, as a township, we have a ridiculously low debt in comparison to our neighbors. So this might be a good opportunity to look either at a bond or a payment plan where we could pay these radios off over a period of years. That also depends on the lifespan of the new radios. I don't want to spend, I would not want to see us spending money over 10 years for a radio that's going to be obsolete in 8 years, for example. So there's still a lot of research that needs to be done, but this is a matter of urgency, and I think that the incoming board next year needs to make some decisions on how we're going to cover this.
What is the state police using, or will be using? Can we follow on with them?
So the answer is, I'm not sure what model of radio they're using. I would imagine they're probably going with Motorola. I know they're on the 800 megahertz system. It's actually the state's system that we're all tied into. We would probably look at what they're doing and consider that, but we would make sure that whatever option we chose was right for us.
Well, if Motorola is exiting the business.
They're not exiting the business. It's the model of radio that we have is 10 years old.
Oh, it's just the model is changing.
Yes.
They're not exiting the business.
Correct. Yeah, Motorola is still kind of the leading player in this field. But it's just that our radios are 10 years old, and if you think about it, it's like, our prep radios are basically a computer. So we're running around with 10-year-old laptops that we're working with, so.
The only thing I'd add to the Conference of West Wayne is we did participate in that grant. I don't believe it was successful, but we did attempt to get all of our radios replaced in that. So, any other questions on that change? Yes, sir, Mr. Stewart.
Well, first of all, Mr. Supervisor, thank you for forwarding the draft of our budget and the
State
key
law.
points.
It's state law.
I understand that, but I can be grateful. One, thank you for your professionalism the past 2.5 years administering this police department. I think we have the proper credit to former Chief Titterington for referring you. 2, school liaison officer. Kudos to Officer Szymanski showing up for open house and PTO at Farrand. 3, Smitherman being promoted, and there's a new school liaison officer on the horizon. And he will need to be acquainted with being an effective school liaison officer, which is in society today is like all important, because I just shudder to hear about another shooting at a school, and I'm the father of a 19-year-old elementary school teacher. Do something with the kids, like if you'd like to respond, get out and play basketball, shoot baskets with them. And finally, oversight and training for certification, and I believe that has been provided by your Lieutenant Kudra. If he'd like to respond, that we're staying up to date with ongoing training. And I mean, everything I'm hearing, the additional burdens on police officers out there on the street, on the road, is just, it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
But I hope we're keeping our certification up too.
Yeah, I'll let the Assistant Chief answer that. One thing that I will tell you, John, is with the $30,000 that we're getting from the state, there are strings attached to that, right? There's certain training that has to be done. But we are an accredited agency, and part of the accredited agency, Assistant Chief, I'll let you kind of finish up on that, on the training.
Yeah, so there are 2 prongs, I think, to your question. So the first I'll touch upon is the accreditation process. October 1st starts our 3rd year in our reaccreditation period. So we were accredited in September of 2022. It was a 3-year period. We have to prove to the state of Michigan that we are meeting all of those standards. When we got accredited, it was, I think, 485 standards that we have to meet. We have to prove that we meet every single one of those every year. So we're kind of breathing a sigh of relief right now because we just finished all of our proofs for year 2. And October 1st, it's going to be a mad scramble to get all of our year 3 proofs. And then we're going to have our on-site assessments with our assessors. Next year, we'll do 2. We're going to do a mock assessment, which is our practice, where we get other accreditation managers from police departments to come in and beat us up and tell us everything we did wrong. And then we'll have a couple months to fix everything that they pointed out to us. And then we will have our actual on-site assessment. I'm aiming for July of 2025. And then we will go hopefully before the Accreditation Commission in September at the Fall Accreditation Conference in Mount Pleasant.
Who's the accrediting agency?
So it's actually the Michigan Association of Chiefs of Police is who it's through. It's the Michigan, oh boy, I should know this. It's the, I'll get it for you.
Michigan Association of Chiefs of Police?
Yeah, well, it's through the Michigan Association of Chiefs of Police.
So it's a branch of them.
Well, it's a commission that is made up of law enforcement professionals that have set what these standards are. It'll come to me once I stop talking about it, and then I'll chime back in. The second thing that I'll touch upon is the training that you mentioned. So Public Act 1 of 2023 was a state law that was passed where, my wife's a teacher, right? For those of you who have teachers in your families, they have continuing professional education that they are required to take in order to maintain their licensure. Police officers have a license to be a police officer. We were never mandated by the state prior to 2023 to do continuing professional education. Now, we had various different training that was required by the state that we did every year, but in 2023, they passed a state law. They're going to mandate this training. They didn't actually make us do it in 2023 because some particularly smaller police agencies pushed back and said, you're going to make us do all this training, but we have a very limited training budget, and you're not going to, how are we going to pay for this? So they worked out some funding. They gave us some funding in 2024, which was around $14,500, I think. And the funding that you get is based upon how many officers you have at the time that they ask you for that count. We had 29 at the time, so that's why we got $14,500. For 2025, they're actually doubling the amount of continuing professional education that they're going to require us to do. So they're doubling that funding. And we are anticipating $30,000 from the state because we're hoping that we will get our number up to 30 officers when they do ask us to give them our count, our current head count of sworn law enforcement officers. It could be a little more, it could be a little less, depending on what our staffing level is at that time. And if you're going to ask me what is the requirements, I don't know, because they haven't told us yet what particular training classes they're going to require. But I'm going to assume it's dealing with individuals in mental health crisis. It's, there'll probably be some community-based policing training in there. There will be bias-based policing training, some mental health awareness type classes for our staff. It's all good training. Much of it, we do. A lot of them are accreditation requirements anyway. But they're going to provide us a lot of funding, which is going to allow us to really expand our training, which is good because more training, the better, as far as I'm concerned.
But you're constantly doing training. You do legal updates.
We are constantly doing training.
It's a constant ongoing thing that's been
Some of
done
it's
all year long.
online, some of it's in person.
Right.
Our officers have more training today than they've ever had. One of the issues we have with that, it's fantastic and it's needed, but every time we have a training day, officers are pulled off the road. So we have less officers on the road for the training. But again, as I mentioned to you, failure to train, failure to supervise. Failure to train is another issue that causes a lot of litigation. So by being accredited, by being ahead of the curve, we're already getting that training. Our officers are getting that. I can assure you they're getting everything that is mandated, so.
And it's now come to me. The accreditation is governed by the Michigan Accreditation Commission, and that's overseen by the Michigan Association of Chiefs of Police.
Michigan Accreditation Association.
Michigan Law Enforcement Accreditation Commission. So MLEAC is the abbreviation.
Any other questions for the chief?
No, thank you.
All righty, very
All
good.
right, very good. I want to thank the board for your time. I'm sorry, I know I'm last. I'm sorry I was long-winded, but thank you for looking at this budget, and I believe this budget will give us the assets and resources we need to give the level of support to our citizens that they deserve. So, thank you.
So the biggest risk to your budget is the prep radios for 2025. That's the biggest risk.
I would say yes.
The budget will explode.
Our share of those prep radios is around $500,000.
Yeah, it's 800 total, 500 for us, 300 for the fire department. Yeah.
So that's the biggest risk in both departments, I think.
Yes.
You always want to know the risks and the opportunities.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, chief.
Very good, thank you.
All right, public comment, 3 minutes. Bob, you gonna get the shot clock going there?
Yes. Good evening, Board of Trustees, Supervisor Heisey. Thank you, staff and citizens. My name is Sherry Underwood. I live on Rocker Avenue, and I wanted to give you a little bit of context. Tonight, I was driving home down Edward Hines Road, driving my little 40 miles an hour when a young male driver in a gray SUV came around me on the double yellow and came about this close to killing a motorcyclist. So that's the context. Thank you for running a great department. And when I called 911 to report this, I was kept local, and I was able to, without being shifted from one place to another, direct the dispatcher to exactly where that vehicle went and give them the license plate number. So thank you for running a tight ship.
Well, thank you, and we appreciate citizens coming forward because a lot of times people say, we don't want to bother you. We want those phone calls. We want to know you're our eyes and ears, so thank you.
You're welcome. I want to talk about a concern that I have about the Church of the Risen Christ and payment to them for renting their facility for our early elections. This came to my attention back in November. I very much oppose it. I got nothing against the Church of the Risen Christ. I went to holiday services there last year. So I tried to find the $50,000 line item in the budget. I couldn't find it. I think if it's just less than 50,000, that you don't have to really list it out. But I'm very concerned about this, and I'm going to request that in your next budget, you absolutely don't put this rental fee in. We have the Friendship Center. We have other places that we can use to do early voting. My concerns include a number of cities and townships that are directly around us have dealt with this problem of the early voting that we now face without spending that kind of money, namely Livonia and some other cities. Also, I'm concerned about the separation of church and state. It doesn't work for me that we have, that we're using a church. And finally, I was alerted to this by reading a news article by Jack Lessenberry, who has a lot more to say about it if anybody wants any more information. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is...
Please come to the podium. Please come to the podium.
And sign in.
Is there a sign-in sheet there, Denisa?
I'll give it to him.
Okay.
Sorry, this is my first time here.
That's okay. You can start talking now and you can sign in.
Oh, okay.
Talking.
So my name is Mike Weaver. I'm a resident in 9116 Oakview, and what I'm having a challenge is behind me in 9114 Northern Avenue. I have a rat infestation problem.
Yes.
I've killed about 13 rats within the 2 months. I'm concerned about people that have health concerns, people that have, I'm a disabled veteran, and if I contract something from these rats, I don't have long to live. For my 14-year service in the military, you can hand this to the folks here. Right here is the pictures of the rats. I've been reinforced the shed as advised by Mr. Atkins, and the rats have came back and just dug around the shed. The person behind me has a chicken, but there's the right to farm, and I've contacted the state agriculture to see and make sure this is properly maintained and constructed. I've spent about $1,000 on this. This is getting to be very time consuming. There are people that are getting chemotherapy, treatment in my area, some people as kids. It's getting to be a real problem. I was in the Army 14 years. I'm a registered X-ray tech with 3 years clinical experience, and a medical service officer 14 years in the U.S. Army. And all my deployments are helping people. We've never had to deal with rats. It's pretty sad that I've served my country and I come home to this as a veteran. I went to Mr. Atkins, and he keeps siding with this person. He keeps warning her. Well, sometimes there has to be a citation. There has to be accountability. I just find it kind of bad. If I was a captain in the U.S. Army, which I was, and under the chain of command, if I ran a POW camp and it was infested with rats, I'd be fired or relieved of command. So I don't know why this has been tolerated so long. Rats have a gestation period of 21 days, and you have to really attack and really go after the problem. I'm just here to say I need your help. Can you please do something with the resident behind me and address the problem? It doesn't seem like what's working is really addressing it to curtail the rats, because they've dug around my shed, which is 8 by 10, and for something's keeping their food, weather, and shelter right there. So there's something there that's keeping them, and I don't know where they're getting in the chicken coop. I was a supply officer at the end of my military career, so I know a lot about it. I'm a buyer for the federal government. I purchased a lot of environmental services. I worked at Selfridge Air National Guard Base, so I know what I'm dealing with, and I just really need your help. I don't know where you can go from here. I'm trying to work within the command of my township. I've been there since February. I put up $15,000 privacy fence in order to try to, not deal with what's overburdened there. But it seems to be effective, a hoarder of things. You can keep cleaning up for 2 months, but the issue is the rats are still there. So there must be some type of service or something. We call it the fire department, because this is a hazard, right? People get bit by a rat. Someone contracted bubonic plague about 2 years ago in Colorado. So I see it's something with the health department, with the fire department and police. So I'm just asking for your help. I don't know what else to do.
Okay, thank you. Just for the record, I mean, we've received all of your emails. You're very diligent in emailing us updates. Dan Atkins has been out to both of your houses repeatedly. You are correct that your neighbor is, I'm not sure how long she's going to be there, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I don't want to violate HIPAA
Yeah, I
regulations or
understand that. It's
anything like
registered
that.
X-ray
you know.
technician, yes.
But, you know, there's some health-related issues there. I know that she is still maintaining a chicken on her property, which she does have the right to do
Yes.
under state law. We have ticketed that homeowner in the past. I mean, that has been a long-standing issue for us. And I know that her daughter is now assisting her to try to clean up the property, both inside and out. I guess we just, at this point, we are certainly not taking sides, and we're certainly not ignoring your concerns. We're trying to work with your neighbor as she, I think she's eventually going to transition away from that property. And hopefully the rat issue will go along with it. As we've told you, you know, rats are attracted to a food source, and you've got a chicken coop behind your house, and that's obviously the source. And so we are, you know, we're working with you, we're working with the neighbor. We just ask for your patience and consideration.
Yeah, and just to add, you know, why I'm concerned, because when I was in the military, I had to bury people that make it, right? You know, I had to go back to the families and tell them the reins are blown all over.
Yeah.
So it's a concern.
I've had to bury police officers.
Yeah, so it's a concern of me that I see these children in the neighborhood, you know, with their parents, and that's what I'm concerned about.
You should file a lawsuit under nuisance.
I understand, yeah, that's one right, but I'm here to work with the city and work with our elected officials here, so
But that's one avenue.
Yeah, that's one avenue, but
I have a suggestion, is attack the rats in her yard. I know you can't do that, but that's what they should be doing.
Yes.
In their yard.
What we're doing.
With poison and traps.
And yes, and that's, I mean, I'm doing whatever I can to contribute, but, you know, just for the well-being and safety, I don't want to see another parent bury a kid because it contracted something from a rat.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
We'll keep in touch.
All right.
Anybody else?
Hi, guys. Bill Pine. I'm a 46-year township resident. I wanted to bring some constructive comments and suggestions on analysis here today. I've been coming here since February of 2023, primarily talking about analysis. One of you got it right away. Three of you, I think, generally agree with the thoughts that I have. Three of you probably don't. The point I wanted to make is for those of you who don't agree with the significance and importance of analysis, I believe that the impression of that is that it shows disdain for residents' questions, comments, and issues. And based on what's happened with the election season, I figured you might want to show some more interest now, so I'm here to bring some basic concepts and examples again. Basic concepts, and these are not all-inclusive, but things that may be helpful. You should put fundamentals before financing. I was really pleased to see that Bob waited on the bonding for the smart meters. I'll talk some more about that. That's kind of what Sandy Growth and Bob Miller were talking about with regard to the Elks. You should figure out, you don't figure out what you're going to spend and how you're going to get the money before you know whether or not the initiative is a sound. Second, unbundle, don't bundle. Please don't combine acceptable initiatives with unacceptable ones to try to slide the unacceptable ones through. Every initiative should be able to stand or fall on its own merit. Third, and this is probably the most significant, it's a mechanical one, analyze proposals based on quality, cost, and delivery. Using hard data on each of these categories for decision-making is basically analysis 101. Any competent business uses these criteria to decide whether ideas have merit, and the township should too. And finally, hard, verifiable data rules. Unsupported arm waving or personal interest ahead of actual proven data does the residents a disservice. Two current examples, which may be moot, but they're illustrative, are smart meters and ambulance transport services. In the case of smart meters, as I shared with you in June, the basic water meter replacement effort does need to be done subject to responsible sourcing, timing, and technical analysis. On the other hand, the automated piece is unsupported by actual financial data as opposed to assumptions. There are some very significant current questions about the reliability. There's significant uncertainty about the health risk, and most recently, there is an issue that says the current proposal may be for obsolete equipment. With regard to ambulance transport services, I shared with you in July, consideration for insourcing ambulance transport services to the Township Fire Department from the current longstanding service provider. would degrade quality of responsiveness and possibly service and required significant township spending for service that's currently free. In conclusion, if you were to approve programs like this that I used as examples without analysis, anything else like this, you theoretically could be spending millions of taxpayer dollars and degrade the service that we receive today. So it would be obviously irresponsible to do that, and a clear message to residents, but the plea to you guys is that hard data and associated analysis is a good thing.
Okay, thank you.
Anyways, please show some horse sense.
Please, thank you very much. Anybody else?
Hi, Board. Mary Ann Adams, longtime resident of Plymouth Township. I hope that you take Kurt's advice tonight and not invest in technology that's soon going to be outdated, and that is the smart RFID water meters. If you read the data that's out there, the industry is not getting the precision that it needs from the smart RFID water meters, and they're quickly working to replace it with newer technology. So when you're looking at making that decision, I would follow Kurt's advice and not invest in outdated technology. Second, I'm here to follow up on the dismissal of the Northville Downs lawsuit, Kurt, that you said was being worked on. So
Yeah.
Can you tell me the date that that's being filed?
Actually, the parties have agreed to an extension. Mr. Cox is no longer handling the case. It's now being handled by a different law firm. I'm not sure what the strategy is there, other than the fact that Mr. Cox is a material witness in this case because he engaged in negotiations directly with the township without his clients being present. So it's been handed over to the Zausmer Kaufman law firm out of Detroit. And they're a very well-known law firm. And so there's been an extension. The attorneys have yet to file the motion to dismiss. And that's pretty much about all I can say at this point.
So are we going to get a dismissal? Are we going to file a dismissal?
We're going to file for a dismissal, yes.
So can you find out at the next meeting when that's going to be filed?
I will, if you ask the question, I'll try to answer it, but I don't control the timing of litigation in this matter. The attorneys handle that.
RMA.
Well, that's the attorney for the RMA.
Right, but
so
you don't control the attorneys.
I don't control the attorneys, or
that's what I'm saying.
I mean, we're conferring
Well,
on litigation
it's just that
strategy.
you have indicated that it was being worked on, so I'm just following up on your last comment.
Yeah, it's being worked on, and I don't know what day it's going to be filed, but since there is now an extension in the case, maybe the parties will take advantage of that.
Okay.
How many weeks is the extension?
I don't know for sure. I think there was a date certain that was set.
I did not see any documentation relating to the extension last night. I was on Pacer last night and I didn't see any filing.
I'm sorry, but that's what my attorney told me earlier today, that there has been an
Okay,
extension.
I'll go back out to Pacer. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, getting up to board comments now, so I'll start it off. We have, our next meeting is going to be September 24th, and we'll be doing the general fund budget, DDA, and Brownfield Authority, maybe some of the other minor items, maybe. I don't know for sure about drug forfeiture, but that might be part of that as well that night. We do have some of you may remember, I think it was in 2017 or 2018, Independence Village went out for a bond, and there was a company. Senior citizen facilities can bond for improvements, and there was this company out of Arizona that allowed them to issue bonds. And as part of that issuance process, the townships or the city, wherever these facilities are located, we have to approve that. There's no obligation to us. It's a formality of the bond process that the community is aware and acquiesces with their issuance of these bonds. So at the next week's meeting, next time we meet, we're going to do a resolution to establish a public hearing for Independence Village. and then we'll vote on that. Because they're refinancing their bonds. That's the reason for this. So they're going to refinance their bonds, and then on October 4th, then we'll approve the transfer. And again,
And we did that before.
and we did it in 2017, or maybe it was 2018. So some of you may be unfamiliar with the history behind that. But Tom Colas from Miller Canfield, who handles our bond work, he will be here that night to help explain that again. And just to reiterate, there is no financial obligation or commitment or risk on our part. This is all part of the procedure that has been set up for these senior citizen bond operations. Tomorrow is September 11th, and we will be holding a remembrance ceremony down the street here at the First Responders, the Wayne County First Responders Memorial at 11 o'clock. We have retired Brigadier General Slocum is going to be our guest speaker, and we'll have presentations by the police and fire departments and the honor guard, and we'll have other remarks from folks. I'm probably stealing all of Ms. Buckley's thunder right now. Sorry.
Speaking,
So,
okay.
okay. Want to just remind people about that. Let me just see here. Some of you know, the board members are aware that I did send a letter off to Eagle, the State Department of Environmental Protection, last week, just asking where we stand, where does at all on the Salem Sewer Project. So as chairman of the Western Townships Utilities Authority, the sewer district, we have not been notified. We have not received any notice from anybody. That would include Showstack or their attorneys or lobbyists. There's been no contact with Watua. To my knowledge, there's been no contact with Northville or Canton Townships, and Eagle has been silent since the April 4th public hearing at Northridge. So I did send it wasn't a nasty letter, but it was certainly an inquisitive letter of Eagle, just asking where we are on this, and we'll hopefully get some kind of a response from them. So, okay, John Stewart.
Could we possibly reinstate the citizen comments at the beginning of the meeting?
Well,
Secondly, I want everyone to know that we're not voting on the final budget until December 10th. Am I not correct?
We have the budget, the state requires a public hearing, which would be held on November 12th. After that, the budget is not done until you say so. It's just that state law mandates that you have to have a budget by the end of the calendar year.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. Trustee Buckley.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up with, was it Sherry Anderson? Underwood, I'm sorry. Thank you for your comments. I really appreciate them, especially in the beginning with our wonderful police. I just wanted to clarify, and maybe you haven't seen some of the meetings or any of the video footage, but Clerk Vorva has been over the early voting center quite often. He's explained this in a lot of detail. He's spoken in depth on why we're using Risen Christ over Friendship Station, and how valuable it is as a piece of the puzzle for this early voting that was voted into law for 9 days. But also you mentioned separation of church and state, and I just wanted to clarify again what the First Amendment ensures both that the government does not show preference to a certain religion and that the government does not take away an individual's ability to exercise religion. So most of our precincts actually for voting take place at church facilities. So we have Northridge, we have Church of the Nazarene, St. Kenneth, so it has nothing to do with the First Amendment on that.
I'm more concerned about the $50,000.
Okay. Yep, and Clerk Vorva can go over that, like he's mentioned many times. And then with our Veterans Commission, we have a wonderful Commissioner Krista McKinley. She is a lieutenant colonel who's retired from the Marine Corps. Has been working with USA Hockey, in particular with Denise Ronayne. Amazing. We were able to collaborate with her on getting a veteran of the game for the hockey games, and so we have 36 of those. coming up, starting in, I want to say in October. We're very excited about that. Nominations for those veterans can be done through me. So if you'd like to take a card, if you know a veteran that you would like to be honored at one of the hockey games, the Kroger, as well as our Veterans Commission, will be donating a ticket, a drink ticket, and another gift card in the bag there. They will have special seating. We're very proud of this collaboration. We're excited. Again, if you have nominations, because we have a lot of seats to fill, we know we could volunteer ourselves, us 9 commissioners as veterans, but everybody knows a veteran and would love to see that really get started right away. So, and that's it for me.
Okay,
Thank you.
Bob? Last day to pay taxes without penalty is Monday, the 16th. If you have not paid them yet, I do not recommend mailing them. If they don't arrive by the 16th, it's a 3% penalty. So there's other ways to pay. You can pay online. There's a 24-hour drop box in front of the building, and the treasurer's office is open from 8 to 4:30 Monday through Friday. So get those taxes in. We need money. We sent out the sidewalk bills last week for the 23 sidewalks. There's been a normal amount of questions that have been raised on whether this is my responsibility or not. Not mine, I mean the homeowner. But that comes up with every cycle. So you can pay them by November 1st. If they're not paid by November 1st, then they go on the tax bills for over 5 years, 5 equal payments, interest-free, and they can be paid off at any time. So sometimes people have concerns where if they have a mortgage, where they're going on their tax bills, but if that's the case, then pay them off. That was it, those 2 big things.
Okay, thank you. Jerry? Yeah, thank you. And I do appreciate everyone's questions when it concerns elections, and it's a fundamental right. The public voted for the constitutional amendment to have these 9 days. In that constitutional amendment, there was no money provided for facilities to do these. Some communities have plenty of facilities in order to do these. Some places have bigger facilities than the township does. We have no facility that is available that is township property that is properly accessible and suited for the kind of voting that can potentially go on. And when you're doing these types of things, you have to plan on what might be the worst case scenario. You understand right now that in the past, I want to tell you, in the past, you always heard Republicans say, don't do absentee voting, don't do early voting, show up on election day and vote. Now you have all of the parties saying, use early voting. We want everyone to access early voting. So when you know that is the potential, you have to have a plan that will have a facility that is readily accessible. And if you read the law on this, there is a list of requirements that are required in the law, in the Constitution, that you have to consider for these locations. Accessibility to the majority of the people. That means more centrally located. Has to be handicap accessible to people. Has to be accessible to senior citizens, even if they're not handicapped. Maybe they have some mobility issues, but they're not an ADA requirement. If you look at the parking lot of the Friendship Station on the east side, it is very irregular. It floods. Matter of fact, at this last election, it rained all day and the parking lot was flooded. You don't have enough parking. You can't have senior citizens parking on a dirt road across the street, walking across the busy road that Trustee Stewart has always complained about. There's too much speeding going on there, and have someone get harmed. As a matter of fact, the law has changed where the each one of the precincts had to be less than 2,999 people. That has been changed now to 5,000. In the future, should I be reelected this November, and I hope you do vote for me, the Friendship Station is not going to be a precinct at all. We're going to cut the number of precincts from 12 down to 6 or 7. And in this community, in the past, we always had one state rep, one county commissioner. Now we have split districts where we have two county commissioners and 2 reps. When you're deciding where the boundary lines are for these precincts, you have to take that into consideration to try to limit the number of split precincts, where one precinct, part of the precinct votes for one person and the other part votes for another person, and it makes it very confusing. So when you're doing this type of work, you have to take a lot of things into consideration. We have no facilities to do that. Both Bob and I went around and talked to other locations. We talked to other churches, and we couldn't find anything adequate for this go around. And so when we did talk with them, they said, yes, we have available, but we charge for this space. And they were making a lot more money for the charter school that was there than what we paid. So it was really fair market value for the facility that we were using. On top of those expenses, we had to put in video cameras. We had to put in a drop box. So this facility had a circular drive in which we could put a drop box on. It had room so that we could put in video cameras, and we had to spend thousands of dollars for this. The public voted for this without knowing how much this is going to cost. This is costing hundreds of millions of dollars across the state. So when people voted for this, they didn't pay attention that what it was going to cost or whether or not you had the facilities for it. It's mandated. It's in the Constitution. You have to perform. So when you're doing this, you've got to do it for a worst case scenario, because in a big election coming up, remember in 2020, we had 2,400 more people voting in that election than in 2016, and that was a high turnout for us. This could potentially be another one of those kind of record-setting events. You have to have a facility that can handle that. The Friendship Station cannot do that safely for the people, and that doesn't have an adequate parking. And in the future, it's not going to be a precinct at all. As a matter of fact, if I'm elected, we're going to change, and I'll tell you part of the plan right now, we're going to change from the schools into churches, because it's difficult to get into the schools during school years. When you had the presidential primary, you had to go take equipment there, lock it up while school's on. Now, the schools closed on election day, but they're open the next day. You got to go and pick the equipment up. There's always a problem with accessibility to the schools. Now, they're great people. They do a wonderful job, but we're going to have to move from there because it's just not a good fit for what we need. Churches on Mondays are not doing anything. On Tuesdays, they're not doing anything. On Wednesdays, they're not doing anything that we can have access to all this. So we're going to shrink the number of precincts down to 6 or 7, depending on how we can configure the 2 different state rep offices and the 2 separate county offices. But there's a lot that goes into this. It's just not willy-nilly, we just throw it out there. You've got to really plan this stuff out. So it was the best plan at the time for the time that we had to implement. So the implementation time was short. So you have to act and you have to have it. This is a fundamental right. This is not like anything else. You have to have accessibility to all these things. And if you read the law, there's a whole list of things that we have to comply with, and that best fit that at this time. Next year, there's not an election unless someone calls for it. And you have the 9 days voting only for state and federal elections. So if there's an election, let's say the school wants to call for a election for a bond issue or for something, or Schoolcraft does, That's not a state or federal election, and you don't have to have the 9 days. Some communities choose to have even longer time period. You can do more than 9 days. 9 days is the minimum. You could do more. I don't think that's necessary. But when we made this decision, we made it the best we could for the timelines that we had to set this all up. We could not change precincts in a presidential year. Imagine trying to change those precincts and then get notices out to 24,100 voters and have them show up at the right place. This was the best case scenario for this particular instance, this time. Now we've got all that equipment over there. If we don't go there, I've got to pull all that equipment out. It's got to go someplace else. And we don't have a facility for it. Northville Township has a larger facility and they have a walkout basement. We don't have a basement here. They have room for it. Canton has a large facility. Livonia has a large facility. We do not have a facility that is adequate, that meets all the needs as required by the constitutional amendment that over 60% of the people voted for in this community and across the state. So let's put that to rest. It's done. It was necessary. It was done appropriately. We voted on it. We talked it all over, and it was done appropriately. There's no conflict of this necessary of church and state separation. That's nonsense. That's not even in the Constitution anyway. There's a letter from Jefferson. And we use churches anyway for half of our voting precincts. So please, let it go.
All right. Okay, no. This is not going to be
a debate. I'm sorry. I know you're new to the meetings. But you can talk to Jerry after the meeting, all you want. Audrey?
Nothing, thank you.
Okay, Chuck?
Yes. Nell Hydrogen, which may be coming to Plymouth Township. I've arranged for one of their executives to come here on September 26th at my Kiwanis Club to speak. All of you are invited. If you want lunch, you come at noon, but you have to tell me ahead of time, and it'll cost you $15. Otherwise, you come at 12:45, and you can hear the talk. We'll find out.
Can you send that in an email?
Pardon?
Can you send that in an email?
You want me to send it to
Or
the
you
board?
want me to
Yeah,
write it down?
please.
Yeah, do you mind?
Okay, I'll do it.
I won't remember by tomorrow.
You don't? No, okay. September 26th, the Thursday. All right.
Okay. All set?
And you can come too if you want.
Are you all set?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, need a motion to adjourn.
Yes.
Motion made by Mr. Stewart, seconded by Mr. Gorba. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.